All right, let's jump back to it. I didn't think lunch was going to take that long, but I think we'll still have plenty of time, I think, to get some good discussions. And we can always pick up a little bit early tomorrow morning too. So I know we've already discussed this, but we can go ahead and dive a little deeper into the pandemic impacts of the Big Sky GeoConf a little bit. So I guess how are you guys feeling about offering kind of a hybrid virtual component this year? I know we're still kind of all board of doing in person, but just was curious to hear guys' thoughts on offering a virtual component. So Michelle, I guess she can share out also her experience with a couple of organizations that she's been administrating too. So
she says she hates it. The hybrid suck.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only hard in that it just is a little bit more labor intensive. There's just different levels of complexity to it, I guess.
So when you did it, did you purchase a conference platform too for it, or did you just do like Zoom or?
So for the one I did in Louisville, we actually used Skype. Because now because all these kind of similar smaller apps have integrated the ability to integrate Zoom, and that was like $300, I think. I actually paid a little bit more. I think it was about $800 to incorporate sponsor logos into it. But because you guys are all familiar with Sked, because we've used it for GeoCon before, you can now, so I created a Zoom link for every session we did. And you just copy and paste the link into Sked. So like your remote audience, you just tell them, you give them the invitation to the app, you go in, this is where you're gonna find the link. So that all worked great. But what we didn't think about was, well, there's two things to that. It worked fine for what we were doing for that conference. We used in the main plenary room where all our general sessions were, we actually used an AV person that had a camera that would capture the whole, like the podium and the stage. And then he had an audio feed that would go from the camera into the laptop so that the remote audience sitting at home would hear the audio and from the presenter. And so it was capturing the presenter, the presentation, and the audio. And then if anybody in the audience had a question, you would just have to take a microphone over to them. And then the person sitting at home could hear the question too. Yeah. So that worked really great in that room. And it recorded everything, captured all the content. And then that also allowed the remote audience to do question and answer. So we had a moderator in the room with any question and answer coming in through the Zoom window. And that moderator then would say that, oh, we have a question coming in from somebody remote, and then they would just say the question to that live audience.
Okay, that's how I thought it was going to happen, just because I think the audio wouldn't be able to capture essentially the audience if you're coming from the computer up front.
No, so if somebody live in the audience had a question and you walked over to them with the microphone.
Oh yeah.
The person at home could hear that question.
Correct, but I guess without some sort of to be able to rely upon that speaker.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So then we had 3 breakout rooms.
Okay.
In a different part of the hotel. And we literally just had a laptop like this up on the podium. And so that if it was a live presenter, they pretty much had to stay in front of the laptop, right? Or the person at home. If they walked away from it, then the person at home was just seeing whatever was in front of the camera. And we had little webcams, but those only go out so far. But also if that person wasn't like standing right here, then the audio wouldn't be picked up either.
Do you think tying in a microphone into the computer at that point in each of the rooms would be much feasible? Because I know we have a lot of presenters that like to walk around a little bit.
It absolutely would. But if you wanted to if they walk around, you would also probably want a camera in the room. And all of that just adds a level of cost.
Well, and I honestly though, I think for the hybrid component though, I think even just a screen capture of what their presentation is probably feasible enough.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you could not worry about them so much.
Yes.
Just capture the content and the audio.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be great. And for what we did, it did capture everything perfectly, so people could go back later and watch the recordings. What we didn't think about that I took a note of is when you have an in-person conference and you have concurrent sessions going on, say one's from like 1 to 2, and then you have one from 2 to 3, and you maybe build in like a 5-minute transition time because people are just transitioning from room to room. Well, that Zoom is still converting that recording. So we didn't allow enough. So for example, say there was a session from 1 to 2, and then you said, okay, 2:05, the next session, go to your next room, the next session is gonna start.
It takes more than 5 minutes
Well,
to.
you gotta leave a little more time for that Zoom recording to convert. And then like the people, but the remote audience was sitting there waiting. So that's the thing I learned about in Boston too. We just did it very similar. We had a little more high-tech production in the one in Boston to give it a little more polished professional look. So we had a nice camera, we had all the video switchers. So we were capturing screen in screen. But again, like say you have your lunch break, for example, it's 12 to 1, and your next session starting at 1. Well, in an in-person conference, if people start rolling in a little bit late, you're just kind of like, that's okay, we'll just get started a little bit late. It can be kind of fluid. But when you're doing a hybrid conference, you gotta start those on time because there's people sitting at home at 1 o'clock waiting for the session to start. So then a couple times we were like, I was having to get on like the chat and go, give us a few minutes, we're gonna get started late. So that was just something I learned from the most recent conference. I mean, it's all stuff that's easy to do, you just have to think about those things. So we actually used an app called Guidebook for the conference in Boston, and it was like $6,000, and I'm pretty sure it had almost the same exact functionality as Scale.
Wow. Yeah, it's probably just.
So to have concurrent Zoom rooms too, we don't have that ability right now. We have to purchase more Zoom rooms, right?
Yeah, and so I did do that. I purchased 3 Zoom webinar licenses, but you can do it for the month. So it was like $46. And then and I just have a note on my calendar to cancel it. And then you just have a different login for each.
Okay.
So I was always like, to our tech guys, I'm like, okay, this laptop is always in the Suffolk room, and this is the login for the Zoom for this room. Like I taped it.
Okay.
So each webinar license is only good for one room, essentially.
Yes. So you have to designate, like, so Michael Kruger email address for this room, my address for one room, the MAGIP Gmail for one room. And that's the login for all those rooms. And then what I'm in the process of doing now, I'm almost done, is all that stuff was captured, recording. So we've now edited it, downloaded it, edited it, and uploaded it to YouTube. We just created a free YouTube channel. But what I'm running into now is like, I thought, oh, I'll have all those done by the end of last week. Well, I'm hitting upload moments every day. So I'm having to just do a few like every day.
So YouTube has a limit of how much you can upload per day then? Is that?
Currently.
Wow.
So now, we told the attendees that the recordings would be available like 36 to 48 hours. And now I had to send a big thing out saying, okay, they're gonna be ready in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so those are just like all things I just didn't know till I started doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
That's gonna be like that anywhere for now.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I was just thinking. And, maybe you're thinking it too. I don't know. It seems like we just have to plan on.
I think so too, especially since some of these conferences that you've administrated, they're only getting half or even a third of their attendance. I mean, I think going in, I think we almost have to expect that too, that we're only going to get half of what we normally do in Missoula in person. But that's a lot to shut off if we just solely go in person.
And they both, I will tell you, they both made more money on their conference than they did on you. Because what happens is you're buying, like your hard costs are for 6 people, but then you're selling more for those 2 anyway. You're selling more digital. They call them digital tickets.
Yeah.
And then what this association's doing with all those ones I'm uploading, they're going to house them on their website on their members only page.
Yeah.
And they're going to send out a big communication and say, hey, couldn't come to the conference, didn't buy a digital ticket, well, you still pay them.
Yeah.
And then they're going to just sell them throughout the year.
That's what Esri does with their UC.
But what about the hotel contract? We're on the hook for a lot more than.
So that's what I was going to talk to you guys about. I pulled up our contract, I still have it. I think now, if we want to make any adjustments to that contract, I think there would be an opportunity to do that right now.
Okay.
What I ran into recently, and I think did I tell you this, Jeff?
I don't
remember.
I don't think you
The
had.
conference I'm having there in 3 weeks. We've locked 75 rooms per night because typically we have fulfilled all of our sleeping room commitments. So about 3 months ago, which I thought was kind of weird, the Holiday Inn was like, Michelle, we're not seeing any rooms being picked up. This was like in May. We're not seeing any rooms picked up in your block, and we're getting concerned. And I'm like, okay, well, it's only May. The conference is in October. Like, don't worry about it, you know? Like, why are you bugging us about this?
Right.
Like every 2 weeks, they send me an email. We're not seeing any. I'm like,
It's probably because they're looking to get people put in there and
Yes.
and because
They want to sell them.
they want to sell them for more for,
yeah,
like,
because
absolutely.
we've got
Yeah.
the same rate that we have for your conference.
Right.
Well, their rooms are going out for like $200 a night. And so I told her, we're promoting it. I think people are just waiting
What's the hard cutoff on that block room though?
for the one I'm doing now.
No, I guess I mean, well, it's the same,
Well,
just in general.
It's a moot point. Like ours was it's about 30 days out. So, and she kept saying, we're not gonna, because usually with a hotel, you can say, hey, can we extend our room block by about a week? And then you send out a big notice and say we've extended the room block. She's like, absolutely not. Our hotel's filling up.
Yeah.
And it's got a Grizzly weekend. And I'm like, okay. So I sent out tons of communication to the audience and said, make your room reservation. They're not gonna let us extend the block. Still nobody, we literally have booked like 30 rooms. So about a month ago, the Holiday Inn reached out to me and basically said, we're gonna give you one chance to cancel out of this contract with no financial liability. We're like, we don't want to cancel the conference, but we don't know if we're gonna fill these rooms because COVID numbers are going back up. But we're moving forward with the conference, we're just gonna do a hybrid now. Okay, so we had a call like 2 mornings ago with Megan at Holiday Inn, and she was basically like, you guys have made no effort to get people to our hotel, and and then at one point she's like, so I'm gonna have to talk to my management to see if it's even financially viable for you guys to have your conference here. And I was like, wait a minute, we have a contract with you. What are you talking about? She's like, well, we gave you a chance to cancel. I'm like, we don't want to cancel the conference.
Yeah, that almost seems like.
So she basically said, well, we don't typically host conferences just for catering. And I go, what are you talking? Explain to me what you're talking about. So they make their money on hotel rooms. We're not filling the rooms. And I said, Megan, you told me like a month ago that you guys were getting super booked, which is why you wanted to switch the block. Oh, because like 3 weeks ago, I said, why don't you take some of the rooms back then and sell them to the public since you're so busy?
Right.
She goes, well, we're not busy now.
That's what I was going to suggest. It's like, well, if you're not filling the blocks, why don't you just take out half of them, give them back to the public, you know? And they said no to that,
She
huh?
goes, well, we're not compressed for those rooms now.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, she goes, we didn't have a crystal ball. And I'm like, well, we don't either. Like we had no reason to believe that we wouldn't fill the room block
Yeah.
Right.
until the beginning of August when the numbers started going, the COVID numbers started going back up.
Yeah, well,
So-
and also let's not forget too, that this is the second time we've pushed our conference and we've kept it in the same location, almost because we've had to, but at the same time, it's.
I was super irritated. So then she's like, well, I looked on the website and there wasn't even anything on there about the room block till about 8 weeks ago. Okay, what are you doing looking at? I don't manage the website, so I don't know. And I'm like, it's not the hotel's business as to how you're marketing the conference. Anyway, so I literally screenshotted every piece of communication I sent out. So when you're talking to your management, you need to know that we did our due diligence to get people to this conference. So they're hurting, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We didn't fill the rooms. They probably thought they were gonna fill the rooms from the general public. The numbers went up and they don't make money on catering.
Right.
So now I'm waiting to hear, but I'm like, I didn't even know it was a possibility that you could tell us we couldn't have a conference there.
Yeah, I mean, how do you?
How would we do that?
That's breach of contract then, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you all this because I think we need to take a look at right now at the contract and decide if you want to adjust anything, let's talk to them now. Because I think if you talk to them now, they'll be fine.
Are they, I mean, because this is the same place where we're having ours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have they brought up ours?
No, but that's gonna be next, I'm sure.
What's our room block look like? What are we on the hook for
It
rooms?
is, I have it right here. We have 20 rooms booked for Monday. 40 for Tuesday.
I know we don't book our stuff right
60.
away. I mean, we're way too
Wednesday,
far out right now.
What's that? Can you say that again?
I'm sorry.
20, 40, 60, 60.
40, 60, 60?
That's how many people have booked already?
No, that's what we have committed to.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's our lot.
Where is the contract at? Is it on the drive or?
I think it is. I can dump it on real quick if it's not.
I think it is under contracts.
It's not there.
Is it not? Okay, it needs to be there.
Sure.
So
I can write it down.
one thing that occurs to me in this, but I don't know, maybe you help me understand it a little bit better. If you have a smaller room block, a hotel might not want to have you at a conference, is that right?
Correct.
So there's kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah, that's why I think it's,
Catch 22 and everything.
yeah, that's why I think it's important, probably, like, so good point with bringing it up now there, Michelle. I think it's important for us to talk to them now, because with us, I mean, normal years, that room block's not an issue at
It's
all.
never an issue. And I've never had an issue with the holiday and I don't know why they're being.
And typically, sometimes, even if you don't fill that room block, they'll just release it to the general public and they don't even care.
They don't, yeah.
No, it's good, yeah.
I-
They're probably just hurting.
I'm like, well,
They're
it's
hurting and just all the, you come out here for hotels around here nowadays, it's just, they're all $300-400 a night, kind of thing. So they think that they can be jacking prices up too and getting that much more money than what we have.
Price gouge.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, because like what they're locked in for us is it's the government rates. So
Right.
they probably lose money on us booking their rooms. So
She's like, and we can't offer the government rate right now. And I go, well, actually, we have the government rate, Megan. She goes, well, I'm gonna have to look at your contract.
Oh my
And I go,
gosh.
well, go ahead. I go, "It's
well,
government rate."
and that's another thing too. Like that will significantly reduce our attendees too if we can't get that government rate locked in now.
And we do have the government.
Okay.
It's-
I figured they do, but is there anything in the like fine print that shows that they can essentially go against their word? I didn't think so.
It's a little just
This is just
concerning about,
shady.
they're having such an issue with this other.
I
conference
know.
and
I'm
us-
glad she
us-
brought it up.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you want
Us-
me to put it here?
But
Or should I put it-
Oh, you got it in there. Okay, no, I'm just looking
No,
at
I'm
the
trying to
wrong
watch this.
Well, yeah.
if they're willing to be that squirmy on their side, we can be too. You know, and like,
Sure.
spot.
I mean, we have,
quarter over it, okay.
well, we gotta take into account as well as that they held over for us for a year or two. I mean, this is,
Yep.
I was looking on the wrong.
it was nice that they've done that.
It
I
is.
put it there right
It
now.
was, but we could go somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So,
Anyway, basically, I wanted to punch her in the face, but
Virtually, of course.
it's funny, they don't have a button for that.
Yeah, they should. Instead of a hand, still a
No,
little hand up.
I am sure she's getting pressure from her management, and I will have a very professional conversation with her. I've never had any dealings with them like this.
It sounds like a corporate thing, and they're like, hey, we're getting $600 a room in Bozeman, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And I told them, we have done our due diligence, just like we will for your conference, but we don't have a crystal ball either. And at the time, up until 2 or 3 months ago, things were kind of stabilized. And then all of a sudden, especially in Missoula County, the numbers started upticking. So then people are like, well, I don't think I can go to the conference. There's no way to predict that.
There isn't.
You know?
So I'm wondering if we going forward with the notion that we probably will have some sort of a hybrid thing. We're gonna have reduced in-person attendance, kind of no matter what. Is it in our interest to have the conference in a place where we can only reserve a small room block? And then if more people show up, there are at least other hotels in the vicinity that people can stay at.
Well, we can't get out of this contract now.
No, this is.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking like
Yeah.
down the road, we
Yeah.
kind of plan for smaller, and if it gets bigger, great.
Yeah. Well, and part of the issue too is also hotels that meet the criteria for us to be able to have a conference, having a banquet room and different breakout rooms. And yes, it's feasible. You could do it where the banquet room splits into the concurrent sessions, but it's just more downtime, and it's possible. I mean, we visited a couple hotels in Great Falls that were like that, where they didn't have the space like at the Heritage Inn, where you have your separate rooms away from the banquet room. But another problem too is places like Bozeman. There's not really, other than the Grant Tree, that's it really for hosting a conference of our size. But we can't predict what the future of our conference is going to look like. So like, say we only get 100 people in Missoula. Well, what's to say we're not going to get that same thing next year, the following year? Well, also, if you look at the attendance from the 2010 conference last time I was in Bozeman, there was over 300 people there. So not saying that's the model that we're going to, especially if this COVID stuff sticks around. I hope it doesn't. But
Well,
it's,
one thing to remember is
it's frustrating.
It's the first time this has happened. And I think, but knowing it's happened in the future, maybe like you like along the lines of what you're saying is where we do look, maybe find out what the minimum room block is.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe say, what's the minimum? Because at least for the next few years, we don't really know what numbers are going to be. We're going to have the conference. We can't predict how many, and get like the minimal room block, but then also tell attendees, make your room block quick or your room quick, and then here's some other hotels.
Well,
Because
find out if we can expand that room block after a little bit of time, say, hey, look, we filled our 20, can we get another 20 on there?
Yeah, and normally if they have availability, they'll absolutely do that.
Yeah.
So what should we do? We have this conference now.
So the other thing she mentioned, I just wanted you to know, is on the call, is she said, we can't, in the whole state of Montana, nobody can mandate masks, right? Because of what
Governor said, yeah.
But she said all their staff wear them, and we as conference organizers, it's our call as whether they're mandated or not. But if we don't require people to wear masks, she was talking about for the conference coming up in 3 weeks, then they as a hotel have the right to determine whether we can have the conference there for the safety of their employees. So she was basically saying, if you don't require your attendees to wear masks, you might not be able to have the conference here, is how I took that. So I don't know if that's going to be the case in April, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on it.
Even though they can't mandate it. I mean, there's businesses that are mandating it. I don't know about hotel but I know some businesses are like, hey, look, you're wearing a mask if you're coming in here or not, no matter what the governor says.
So let me look at our contract again. And I go back to what you said. Right now, I think.
Sounds like that was a productive phone call you were having.
And then I said, Megan, are you telling me that? I said, first of all, we need to know if we can't have our conference there. She goes, well, I didn't know that was a possibility. And she goes, well, I'm 99% sure it'll be fine.
What empty threats there?
That's exactly what it was.
Okay, so I'm looking, I don't know, Michael, if you scroll down to the revise when we amended it to 2022. Because do you guys remember when we were originally going to do it in 2021 because of I think it was Easter weekend, we were going to start on a day later. So we reverted back. So we actually have 20 rooms for Sunday night. So Sunday night would probably be the committee and the board, right?
Did you just upload it too?
Yeah.
It's not that, is it?
Look in MAGIP events folder, and then Big Sky GeoCon 2022.
There we go.
And so you have to scroll down, because this confused me at first when we first did the addendum. Like, if you look at the top, it still says 2021.
Yes, well, it says 2020.
Right, but go down, and then it says event 2022 down below, and then right there still says 2021. But if you keep scrolling down, keep going past all of that,
God.
I know, past all of that, keep going.
This is
right
why
there,
we
right
hired you.
Yup.
there. Yeah, right there. That's our 2022 dates, and those are our room block commitments.
So yeah, Sunday is not, that's just boards, right? And the conference people.
Well, would there be anybody that would potentially come in for a workshop?
Do we have
On Monday?
workshops on Sunday?
Monday-
Or,
for
Monday
Monday.
morning.
Get
that's right.
prepared,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So 20 to me still, I mean,
It's steep.
still seems like it would be fine, but
I think that'd be good.
I feel like we should cut all of it in half.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Cut all of them in half.
Yeah.
Like 10, 20, 30?
Yeah.
10, 20, 30, and then Thursday night, would we need rooms for Thursday night?
Well, and we haven't talked about this too, but it would be nice to, maybe potentially hold our board meeting during the conference. I know MWEAC does it. Do you guys have, is it pretty well attended?
I asked it.
Yeah, well, and in some of like the leagues and city and towns and some of these other conferences, they have like their committees or their board meetings during the conference so people can attend them.
That's true.
And that's technically considered our annual meeting. So
You guys usually do one on Monday and Friday.
yeah. So
We do one on both days.
you sure?
Monday and Friday?
What?
Monday we typically have just done workshops.
Yeah.
And Friday.
You had a board meeting, I mean, look,
I mean, not that I know, but I believe the board meetings are on Friday.
Yeah, I thought it was Friday
Friday
morning.
Yeah.
oh,
They have their.
We didn't have one this
We didn't
last
have
one because it was a
Well,
virtual
right.
conference.
Yeah.
Sundays when,
That next day is challenging, yeah.
yeah, Sundays when you come in and you're like stuffing bags and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, that's typically just
Yeah,
conference
preparing
prep,
for the
so.
workshops.
And the board
Right.
meeting's on Friday,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I think you should.
So this is the same one I signed back in, because we pushed it out.
Right.
I would guess so, considering the dates are 2020 on there still.
And at the time that we signed this, we had already anticipated a reduced attendance. I mean, those room block numbers are already pretty low for your conference.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are really conservative numbers.
Yeah.
So we were already thinking there was gonna be a reduced attendance. So I think,
And why was that? Because it was COVID was already going on then?
yeah, we'd
Okay.
already postponed it. We weren't sure. So you guys were already pretty conservative in those numbers. So you're probably fine, but because the way the holiday ends being, I just wanted to make sure you were aware and maybe taking note.
Yeah. And
You think they're gonna get pissed if we have these numbers and they might want to renege or something?
Well, these are what they are, and I don't know if they'll let us.
Oh, so-
We're talking about possibly even reducing them further. and I don't know if they will let us, but we can ask.
And that would just be a favor for them, right? Basically, if we did that.
I would think so. Then they can use those, for themselves.
Well, it's hard to tell right now what side of the coin they're on,
I know.
right? On the one
Yeah.
hand, do they want us to commit to paying for these rooms? Or do they want them on the open market where they can get more?
Mhm.
That's not our trouble. Anyways, we're having a conference.
Yeah.
But are we still talking about if we're having a hybrid, then we might have lower numbers than we would if we were.
So if we have a hybrid, which I think you probably will, then you have to think, will there be 60 people? And you have to look at the overall room nights too. So it's an overall commitment of 190 room nights. So out of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if you divide that evenly, I mean, it's like, are you gonna fill that many room nights?
How many people did we have attend this year? GeoCon?
The virtual one?
Yeah.
200 and, I can tell you.
There's only two.
Oh, 259 for the virtual. But when it was in view, we had, that was really,
I thought that was great.
175?
That was all that showed up? Yeah, I thought that was pretty well attended.
Yeah. Well, just to show you.
I don't
have
know
a
if
nice
that's right.
conference with 175.
you guys had over 200 in Helena.
I remember.
I know we had over 200 in
Yeah.
Great Falls.
Yeah.
so,
No, we might have been
Travel is
less
getting
than that.
harder
It is.
For
It is.
employers, and
Yeah.
I was just thinking, for your employer to pay for 3 nights of lodging, it's a stretch these days.
why don't I, because of what's happened with the current situation with the conference I'm working on, why don't I just talk to Megan,
Yeah.
because her and I are gonna be real, a lot of talks lately. And I
Buddy,
can just
buddy
say-
buddies.
I can
Speed
just
dial.
say, we just had another meeting about the conference coming up in April, and given what just happened with this conference, you know, what is our flexibility on this contract? Because we don't have a crystal ball, Megan,
Yeah,
so,
Well,
Professional, remember?
yes, I can be very professional.
yeah, I mean,
But like, what are, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
even, it may not even, she may say, you know what, you're locked into this contract, there's no option.
well, don't these numbers come into play as well? That 37,000, this total minimum revenue?
Yeah, that's with your food and beverage and everything.
Because I know we had talked about that before we pushed the 2021 conference to 22 was because it came down to these days and whether or not, you know, because you're owed a percent, you know, you owe a percentage to them if you do cancel. So it's just
That's if you actually cancel the whole.
correct, yeah. But like I guess, but what happens though if we don't meet that minimum? Say we have a conference there, 80 people show up and say we're just under that minimum.
So it's called lack of performance, and if you look at that, their contract's a little confusing to me.
What
But
page,
this is how,
what page is that on?
if you go to page 7, so basically it says, it's number 6,
Number
right
six.
above force, the paragraph right above force majeure, if you go down, see number 7, force majeure. The paragraph right above that says, if the event is held, but the hotel does not realize the total revenue anticipated, you agree to pay performance damages.
Okay.
The damages owed would be the amount necessary for the hotel to receive no less than 90% of the minimum guarantee. So I just asked about this for other our guarantee for this other conference is like 15,300 for sleeping room revenue, but we have 31 rooms booked already. So that they take what say our commitment was 15,000, so they take 90% of that and then subtract what we've already booked.
Okay.
So 90% of the 15,000 was like 13 something, but we've already booked like 3,100.
Does
So
that,
our financial liability for the conference I'm working on now, unless they negotiate with us, our financial liability to them is gonna be like $9,000.
so does that go down the line? Does that impact food and obviously the meeting rental is gonna stay the same, but like say with not that many people showing up, say hardly anybody, you know, let's say the food and beverage
It's like
minimum
half, right?
is half than what we normally do. We're on hook for,
So, yeah, I mean, that 90% is probably referring to that total minimum revenue there.
Yeah.
Then? Okay, so.
But they'll subtract what you've already, so say we spend
Correct.
90,000 and so right now, like, for the conference I'm working on now, we have met the food and beverage, I mean, I just ordered stuff to make sure we meet the food and beverage minimum. So really the only thing we're dealing with them is the sleeping room revenue. And the late setup and labor goes up as well. So if you don't,
oh yeah, refers to the setup.
yeah, if you
breakdown
don't meet a
based
certain
on-
percentage, then but I think the most it goes up is to 2,500. I'm not trying to like scare you guys or be negative because you'll probably be fine, but they're usually.
It's still the
usually
business side of things though, you know, we have to look at it from a business side. Yeah.
Now.
Well, and usually they're much more flexible. I've never run into this with them. So the fact that they're being this way is like, okay, this is probably how it's gonna be moving forward. So we just need to be more
Now, when you say them, are you just talking about Holiday Inn?
Holiday Inn.
Okay.
Could we broach? It's not sound like they're amenable to totally canceling. I would rather totally cancel than risk being on the hook for that kind of money because I don't,
Yeah.
I mean,
We
That
can't
is an
guarantee
option.
it.
Mhm.
because,
And I only say that because remember, she sent me the email for that other one and said, we're giving you like a one-time chance to,
yeah,
because to them, it's
Sure.
probably more fiscally, I don't know how to be more fiscally
Advantageous. really.
advantageous to
Yeah.
them.
it's more business as usual. for them,
Yes, right, yeah.
Without having us locked in for something.
So I would say that's a possibility, Mike, if that's something you guys wanted to consider.
Solid personality coming through.
Yeah, yeah.
Personality in one word right there, right?
How are you guys all feeling about, I mean, do you want me to send out another survey to get a pulse on who's coming, gonna be able to come? Or are people even gonna know?
This is like 2020 this is 2021 deja vu all over
I know, I
again.
think it is.
I think it's too early.
And we don't want 80% would be in person. and then us deciding to cancel, having room only, right? Like,
Well, I think we first need to talk to them about, okay, if
Yeah.
you guys are gonna be sticking to these room minimums, what's the cost to get out now versus, or, I mean,
I don't.
something like that, or not necessarily, what's the cost to get out now, but
Yeah.
what is our options if we just do not want to have it at all right now?
I wouldn't want to bring, I think it's too early to bring up a.
Oh, it is, but like Michael does bring up a good point,
Yeah,
but
we don't wanna-
because just because we can't forecast any of this stuff, and
No.
they're gonna be sticking to their guns on
I
this,
know.
we're gonna end up losing a ton of money because this 18,000, it's this 18,000 I'm worried about.
You really feel we're not gonna get that, huh? And those numbers are based off the
Well,
200.
that's
Based
about
on-
180 rooms.
It's 190 at the government per diem rate.
Well,
which is
190 for 4 days.
Correct,
Divide
yeah,
that
so
for-
if I stay there for 4 nights, yes, I'm
Right.
counting for 4.
Right,
There's also people who drive in from Helena just for the day.
right,
There's,
right.
people in Missoula.
Yeah, you gotta talk about the
Yeah,
entire
yeah,
Missoula
absolutely.
population that's gonna come, none of them are staying the night.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah.
say a quarter or a third of that 80, let's just say 80 people. So that's 30 some people from Missoula. That only leaves 50 people that are staying.
And
and-
Lolo and Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would see if you could drop cut them in half.
Yep.
If we can.
And the food, and maybe the food and beverage, and if they,
Yeah.
so if they're not willing to lower the food and beverage and the sleeping room block, then we need to go, okay,
Then maybe have another
Then
meeting.
then we need to have another conversation at that point that we're out,
Yeah,
we're out.
I think that would be smart.
And I mean, they could, I don't know what the penalty is, then what's the penalty if they completely honored the contract and didn't give us the same luxury they gave this other conference?
if we just canceled
If we
it,
just canceled, yeah.
it would be, how many days out are we?
These 6 months.
So 180 days in advance would be 25%. So we go 9,200.
Oh, that's never mind. Way more than I thought it was.
yeah.
So I'll have to tell you though, with the other 2 conferences I did, one in Louisville and Boston, they were both right up until the last minute, so accommodating. They're like, yes, they were basically took a completely different approach. They're like, we understand that you're doing everything you can to get people to your conference. We're gonna work with you. We get it. So one was a Marriott and one was like a boutique, like the Brown Hotel, like a boutique hotel. So maybe they just have more ability to do that.
Could be just who you're talking to too.
Well,
And all the,
I'm sure they don't like the hybrid model
I'm
because
sure they don't.
ultimately,
Yeah.
there's probably people on the fence who would maybe come if there wasn't a hybrid option.
Right.
And I bet they don't like it either because it takes about half of their sleeping room revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So they're, and I
I
get, they're all in a bad position too. So it's just kind of it's just a really challenging
Yeah.
time actually for both sides of the industry, I guess. But when she talks about how they want to be good partners, she talked about that with you guys on the call, member. She does every call you have with her. We just want to be really good partners. Okay, well,
This
BS.
is what we need.
BS.
because what happens to me after something like this happens is, guess what? I don't want to ever have a conference at the Holiday Inn anymore,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, she's
Yeah.
making a pretty bad enemy with the conference
right?
planning.
Well, okay, well,
I mean, I get her position, but you gotta work with people, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's in the position.
They're
That's
Yeah.
still
the
gonna
thing.
make money.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if we have our conference there. Although I said, well, is your restaurant open yet? She goes, no, we can't find people to staff it. And I go, well, I guess we can't encourage our attendees to eat there.
Yep.
yeah,
I go, well, it'll be open by April for the MAGIP conference. Why, we don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean, but looking at these numbers though, I think the consequence of not meeting that sleeping room is probably still less than 9,400. So, but if they'll let us out of our contract with no financial obligations, I think we probably should take it.
Did this other organization have this COVID clause too? Did you guys have that COVID clause? I mean, that part 2 of the COVID clause indicates that
Huh?
in writing,
sorry.
there might be they might be more amenable to flexibility, but
Are you talking about the second one right here?
yeah, the second part
Oh,
of it.
that's right, because we had that added in.
Yeah,
remember?
so
And
we
I
had
don't know
it
if I had it
removed
added
it.
into the other one.
So, I don't know, maybe my Polish side is coming out, but I'm less afraid of meeting their demands at this point. You know what I mean? I'm almost saying, look, if we can reduce our rules a little bit, let's try to do that. Then we'll go for it.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Chances are we're gonna be okay, and if we're not, welcome. And there's, you know what I'm saying?
Like, don't fail, you're saying? Or-
To some extent, right? I mean, if they're that, I mean, if they're that willing to throw their contract language around however it suits them,
Yeah, we're getting to the courts then.
You know,
I think that that COVID clause #2 that we had added in
I
is
don't
going to
think
give us
so.
some leverage.
I don't think they have the desire.
Because it
or
says-
whatever.
Okay, I guess explain this, Michelle. I guess English.
Play hard, well, let's play hard.
Yeah.
Does that kind of give us a little more play with the sleeping room
I think it
rates?
does, but it says if the conference date approaches, so the question there is approaches, like, so timeline for us, we might say 4 months out as approaches, or
Yeah.
they might say a
For
week
now,
out.
yeah.
Allow for the event to take place. State and federal guidelines allow for the event to take place, and that means that the Holiday Inn is able to host us. But the group projects reduced attendance due to state and federal travel restrictions surrounding COVID-19 for some attendees. Then the hotel would be flexible in reducing nutrition and food and beverage commitment by an appropriate percentage, depending on what travel restrictions are in place.
Which there
That's
are for
pretty broad,
state.
right?
For state, yeah, you guys have,
Federal.
Yeah.
But and who decides?
Who decides and how?
exactly.
Great.
And
I
who says that
Who put
it's
that
fair?
clause
It's
in?
a fair decision.
Great job.
It was Michelle's.
Michelle
idea.
did, yeah.
Good job.
Michelle did.
Put that clause
We have data from our previous conference who state and federal employees are. We say this percentage is state and federal that'll likely hit your, at the moment, have restrictions, and it's probably gonna be like 50% or more.
Probably.
I know
Say
we,
this is what we want based on this data we have from this last conference or 2 conferences. We
Yeah.
could go back several, and the data is gonna give us really strong numbers on state and federal employees.
yeah,
That's a good point, and I think that clause is gonna give us some
Yeah,
flexibility if we approach them now.
I know a lot of state agencies, our in-state travel is basically cut off. I mean, Nate and I came up here on our own dime, so
So if
it's,
she wants proof, you guys would be able to give some kind of.
yeah,
Can't get a proof.
yeah. So, I mean,
We should be able to get that data, right? Who's attended our, at least our last.
Yeah. I
2,
can Well,
3.
so, yeah, I might have to, like, I can print the list out, but how will I know if they're state or government, like state
employee Or
library?
the email.
Email address.
Oh, gotcha,
Mhm.
like .gov, or
Mhm.
I can do that. Okay, so anyway, the other thing I want to mention, I will reach out to the Holiday Inn. If you do a hybrid conference, and Jeff, I don't know if I talked to you about this, and Rob, you might be familiar with MCAT in Missoula. So MCAT is Missoula Community Access Television, and they, because I'm doing this for the conference that's coming up, they will provide, you just filed a grant, it takes like 10 minutes, I did it for this other one. They'll provide up to 12 hours of their staff and all their TV equipment to produce your event. So for us, for the conference I'm doing, they basically bring in, like I was telling you, is the camera, the cord, they would hook into our laptop, we would do it through Zoom. The only catch is, and so this is what we're doing for the other conference, is about a month later, it broadcasts to their local Missoula channels.
they're random channels. Though.
I don't know who the hell's watching those channels. I've never even heard of them, so I don't really think we have to worry.
I've seen some of that
Huh.
late night.
Yeah.
Some weird stuff.
Channel 799 on on the cable.
But I basically just reached out to all the speakers for the conference I'm working on and just told them exactly, I said, we're using this community access television to help us capture the content. Do you give us permission to live stream? And then I let them know that their stuff's gonna be broadcast to these 2 Missoula community, and we've basically gotten permission from all of them.
So I'm wondering, is this a thing where like a speaker would go in and do their presentation in a booth?
No, they actually come to the Holiday Inn.
Oh.
What's the benefit? What's the benefit?
It's
Like,
completely free.
And we use their equipment.
right, but it's recording and we have that.
Yeah, so if we don't do that.
Are we eligible to apply for this grant though?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
you guys are a nonprofit organization.
Okay, I know you were gonna ask that question, so.
I mean, I can see the
Because you did
room.
talk to me about that.
The difference is whether you want a presenter up at the front of the room like this, and the people sitting at home are just seeing this, or if you want a more professional
Sure.
camera in the
Big mark for the
room,
whole room.
capturing all of it. He said, and if a person asks a question in the audience, they'll pan the camera over to that person so that the person at home is seeing. So it's just a more professionally produced.
Having two
So-
staff without us.
but- so we
coordinating all the
get-
staff.
We get a more professional presentation at no cost.
Correct.
We get the downloads though, or we get the, like, we're able to download it and like have access
Yeah,
to.
because we'll do it through our Zoom account.
Yeah.
So we're recording it on Zoom. And so really all they're gonna be broadcasting on their channel is whatever they're capturing on camera.
Where are they getting their funds from? I guess, what's the caveat?
Funded through sponsorships and memberships. They've been around for a long time.
Okay.
And they need content,
They need content.
right? And so actually that could be a whole nother tagline we could throw on the conference, right? Like, instead of, it's, it'll be on TV, right? I mean, if you can't make it, it'll be on public access.
We don't want to dissuade people from coming now.
Okay,
But
so,
it doesn't air till like a month later.
Yeah, right, right.
well, how does the Zoom portion, I guess that would be more for us to be able to record them, right?
So picture us right here. There's a guy in the room with a camera. There's a cord that runs from that camera to the laptop.
Okay,
It also plugs into the audio system. So they're capturing the presenter.
so if we had Zoom rooms set up, we could offer the hybrid component that way.
And they could do 2 rooms. I said, well, we might have a concurrent session. We have concurrent sessions. And he said they have the equipment to do 3 rooms at the same time, but they only have 2 operators. So we would just need a volunteer to operate the camera in the other room.
Oh, yeah.
So after the 12 hours,
It's only 12 hours though. So you'd have to pick what 12 hours you want.
12 hours total for
Yeah.
12 hours for the entire conference.
Well, I mean,
12 hours a day.
But
would
we
be nice.
wouldn't do the workshops.
Right.
So it's really just that Thursday and Friday. And when you take lunches out and breaks out, it
Yeah.
really probably is. close to
you're
that.
gonna want the keynote though.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
So there might just
Or
be
not,
some.
or
Yeah.
not. See, the keynote is the least dynamic of the whole thing.
Yeah.
We could just.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I
That is
didn't
true.
ask what if you want a couple more hours? Maybe there's a little bit.
Okay.
But this seems like something, if the membership were present and listening, and they're like, oh, you gotta serve it. If it's something we don't have to pay for
Mhm.
and get quality service out of it, that might be something that we are almost obligated to consider.
Now I'm gonna try it in 3 weeks, and so if it goes well, I'll let you know. And if it goes crappy, I'll say, okay, let's back that idea. 'cause it was
Oh,
very
Eric's
good.
coming in. All right, so let's take a quick break and then we'll jump to the bylaws thing since we have Eric's attention. So
One quick question I wanted to ask about the recorded stuff. Do we have a way to measure how many times those get viewed?
Zoom has a count tracker, doesn't
The reason I'm wondering is like, as we do more and more and more of this, there's a lot of storage, right? So I mean, we kind of have like this back end storage requirement to store and distribute all of this content that may or may not ever get used.
I mean, if it's housed on YouTube or something, you might be able to see the videos, but otherwise I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I'm wondering? Like, is it worth storing all this stuff?
Yeah, you wouldn't have to. You could make it available for 2 weeks or whatever.
Okay, that's a nice.
Oh, man,
idea.
that's screen
That
sharing.
way, if
anymore?
somebody is busy and can't watch part of it, they could watch it. Say it's gonna be available for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If they paid for a ticket, if they registered for the virtual conference, they have access to the content for 2 weeks.
like on the feature.
Exactly, yeah,
Have we ever?
YouTube. They can watch it on YouTube.
or not. No, I mean,
If
if
would
we
go
wanted
that
to, I
direction.
wouldn't do that. We housed it in the app last time.
And that's still available, right? Like like feed loop the videos from this past conference? Like we
I
don't.
think so, yeah.
I think I got moved to the web page.
We haven't moved them anywhere,
So,
yeah.
I actually don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I feel like they were gonna be, because I didn't know how long they've been housed in Google, so I thought they were getting moved over to the web page.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet, but
Well, I think,
we probably
yeah,
should
I
check
didn't-
on that.
I think I checked feed loop and I didn't know how to find it.
But anyway, I mean, you may not want the content to be available for a year. You just might want to say, if you register for the conference, you're gonna have access to this content for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't know how we were doing it. If we had like gigabytes.
Right. Yeah,
Video
yeah, absolutely. Because some people want to watch a video 2 months after
Yeah.
too. So
The keynote would be cool to have at least put that on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
But you'd want to put it like in a members only, you don't want everybody just having it, they didn't pay for the registration. just
right.
watch it.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. I'm gonna try to figure this stuff out with Eric. Eric, can you hear us okay? Are you able to talk?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Turn my volume up.
I heard him.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I wonder if he's.
A little bit. Yeah.
All right, try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, yep. I just switched my audio.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, I got you guys. I don't know. I've got an old camera. I'm just going to see something here. See if this actually works. Oh crap! Look at that. It actually works.
There it is.
All right. Hey, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, and then
Yeah, no worries. I'm also in the middle of getting ready for class for Tuesday, so I'm going to be. I'm going to try and multitask. We'll see how successful I am or not.
All right. Cool.
It'll either be a horrible thing for you or a horrible thing for the students come Tuesday. So we'll see how it works out. All right.
Heading up to Denver,
Yeah.
7-7.
I saw
Minnesota.
I see Tannehill had a good day.
Yes, he did.
Touchdown.
They lost.
The Chiefs lost.
Chiefs lost.
They're 1-2 now.
Last second field goal. They kind of eyeballed it on the left there.
Go Chargers.
Yeah.
You've been in the doldrums for a while. Vikings are going to be another barn burner, and then
I don't know. I'm kind of glad I'm not watching it.
he has a touchdown.
Oh, wasn't a last minute field goal. It was a last minute touchdown. Chargers scored a touchdown at the end.
Who scored?
I don't know.
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think this place was like super. The one unknown was that this place was booked for yesterday. We wouldn't have been able to get in here until today. Yeah.
Herbert had a really good day.
So we lost
Holy crap. I just boosted up in points there. Metcalf. No, Wilson's throwing Metcalf.
Yeah, this one's hot. This one's not. From the burner.
Are you kidding me?
I don't know how
Miami's killing Las Vegas.
My Henry Ruggs.
14-2.
How's that good for us?
Because the Raiders are going to keep passing.
Well, now they're gonna have to.
Raiders suck.
I disagree.
Their defense has always been an issue.
Yeah.
That's why
Noah Fant did not score their touchdown, I can tell you that.
That's why their offense looks so good, because their defense can't hold anybody.
So here's somebody who works for the Montana DNRC, but has a Gmail email address, but they're probably a state or government. employee, right?
Yeah, using their home emails.
What about city of Kalispell? That's state or government, right?
That's, yeah.
That'd be local, yeah.
Oh, so you have organization out there.
Yeah, so if we look at the organization,
Wait a minute, we were talking football, not work.
Is there not type?
Break
I thought we had a type of
in the conference registration.
Oh, no, we have it on our website.
One of us could go, I could go in there. and-
Well, what if-
5 minutes.
You would be able to tell, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Well,
city of
I know
Kalispell-
everyone.
But the city of
Say
Kalispell,
federal.
like that person might have travel restrictions from the city.
Yeah,
of
federal. I would
Kalispell,
say federal right there, DNRC.
right? So,
You have restrictions. UNRC? No, it's state.
State, definitely.
Well, what's the restrictions for the state? So I know our county is not allowing any,
Well, it's,
you can go in-state conferences, but you can't go out of state.
it's up to the director. So our director, shot down both Nate and I's travel up here.
Really?
But then sent out an email that all, because of the COVID numbers right now, she still wants to do COVID numbers every day.
Yeah.
All in and out of state
Yeah.
travel will not be approved.
Results with her.
Yes,
Even in-state?
Can I see those?
Wow.
yeah.
See, our commissioners will never
I
do
mean,
that.
Michael got to go to a conference, but because it was in Helena, he got to go. 'Cause it was next gen
You know,
911.
at least
They had to go to Colonial.
Oh, right, sure.
Yeah, but that was in town.
There was a conference in it?
Yeah, Jason, I think was at it too, but they did
Shit.
Honestly,
Anyway,
consultants know there's as many people there.
that's interesting.
Um,
58 attempts.
Yeah, Roethlisberger guy.
Whoa.
Yeah, they,
58
Cincinnati killed him.
I told you Cincinnati's gonna be good.
Yep, 24 to
Keep
10.
an eye on it. They're 3-0.
No, they're not 3-0. They're 2-1. Yeah.
And there's certain.
which is different.
That's
Well, no, yeah, they lost to, who they lose to last week? They lost to
Chicago.
Chicago. But that was kind of weird.
Yeah,
Chicago was getting blown up by
Yeah.
whoever today. Browns. They're getting blown up by the Browns today.
So which conference is this?
This was our virtual 2021.
Because obviously they
2021
don't have a
virtual
second
by GeoCon.
We get another list for the this one's be like that.
Mhm.
Oh,
there you
it's
go.
Friday, all right.
I mean, that's, you could
Go
just,
through at least brand, state and federal employees. I don't know.
yeah.
Under the elbow.
Megan,
It'll
say Georgia.
We're in rural America right now.
Yeah,
We don't have high-speed internet like we do in Billings and Helena.
yeah.
10-7, huh?
At least we scored a touchdown. Yeah,
That was a wobbly kick there.
that should have been our kick.
Just the kick, that was like.
Yeah, and then we did our kick and we lost it.
Doink. Oh, no. Who's your kicker?
wonder
Is
if
it
we
Bailey
look
still?
up in
No.
the,
Joseph Bailey's
just the
actually
actual
for the Raiders.
membership. If it's
Really?
Yeah.
What did you guys do there?
But it's.
That was just this year,
but
right?
it's not
No,
in-
that was
but
last
it
year.
didn't
Oh, okay.
put that in the-
Every year we do this.
Maybe we should start.
Oh, we got rid of Dave Prater after he got caught with pot. That was 3 or 4 years ago.
So,
I had a coworker from huge Seattle.
Yes.
Wagner, he had
Like,
20 tackles last
so
year.
it's all the
He's probably
videos.
up.
Yeah.
You know, Seattle fan, and it seemed like for a while that Seattle was taking every one of Minnesota's.
It should be in the
Yeah.
recordings. Oh, go down, sorry. Go to virtual settings.
What was that conference you were at?
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Public safety.
Well, I wasn't
Right
at
there,
that.
yeah, because they were like, once they were
Yeah, that was the
recorded, they
one
went
that,
into
Mike-
recordings, I know I refreshed my memory, because I haven't used to Yes.
Paul came down.
Wait, so wait, well, that's where the pre-records were, but then when they were recorded, and then we downloaded it, then they get put back, they got put back,
That's perfect. That makes sense.
yeah.
Oh, is there another Arts game?
So if you go to the front
I
end.
just saw
I
that.
didn't even know there was a Arts game.
Wonder if I
My
could
dog
even
was just
remember how to
gonna
get
do-
it. It should just.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny, I've used 2 other apps since then, and now I'm like,
Start fighting with this one for no reason.
I'm forgetting what feed loop is about.
We have 2 months, essentially. The one that runs in the shadow. Yeah, her
So I don't even see it in here. I have, well, did we probably would have signed in with the Mac, right?
Do you think those guys are gonna bring up the issue of, or like, hey, well, we helped you guys out already by postponing the conference or allowing you to have it for 1 more year over here?
I think
You know, they may bring that up.
Sanders had 6 3.
I don't think so, because that was like a completely different, I think they were doing that with
I think she's
everybody.
mostly-
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
And I think the fact that it was so proactive and start focusing now,
I
I think what happened in this situation
Sanders'
was,
mom is full of open
they
trees,
probably
but then on the
maybe,
dad's side, there's like
I
five.
think what
other
happened
trees.
when she first reached out to
That
me
one's black
was,
as well, so.
it was before the
But
summer
there's
and
also
young
kind of like
COVID
a
numbers were
split.
good, and people were starting to travel.
Right.
So
good
all of
timing,
what-
for sure.
So they jacked up the hotel rates, and then all of a sudden people were traveling and their hotel was filling up.
Yeah,
So I think they wanted to sell those rooms.
yeah, that's absolutely right.
So then she was like, hey, Michelle, we don't see room reservations. And I was like, well, don't worry about it, people will, you know. Well, then what
I talked
happened
to
was
Shadow
a
to
shift
actually
took
run along
place.
with the.
And then all of a sudden
when I
they
was,
went,
living
oh,
in
crap,
town in Helena. so-
nobody's making hotel room reservations anymore because the numbers are going up. We weren't filling our block either, so I think it was just kind of this perfect storm. I think it just happens to be a bad situation and we just are getting.
I've taken
away with it.
Shadow with like on my fork.
So-
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good move.
Yeah, I mean, especially if I'm running like only like,
Yeah,
well, for
Now,
miles,
and then
that's
we
like
make
a
some more
skate for it. She gets back, she has also.
yeah, we
back
can make
and
it
all
a
that.
conscious
I think they're
decision.
probably
And
just.
I'm just glad I
it's
don't
like
ever get rid of any
16
emails
miles.
or any documentation,
Love those
because
emails.
I literally went through back all my email communications and was like, so I have a string of it, and
Okay, I think we better get back to it, so.
where she said they were so busy that they couldn't extend our block, but now she's saying we
Right.
don't need
Did you
it.
end up finding them, Katie?
What's that?
Our presentations?
Well, so all the pre-recorded ones are on the drive,
Okay.
and then Michelle's just showing you where it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
Still
there.
get
Okay,
one of
they're
those.
probably still on the back end.
And
They are, they're all on the back end.
Okay.
it's just, yeah, so like figuring out which ones are pre-recorded, going to just download.
Yeah, I think eventually we'll go to YouTube.
You go to, sessions though, like, so from the front end, they're just all there on demand.
Yeah, well, and I think anybody that went to, because I think I've logged in a couple times this spring and was watching stuff that I didn't get a
Yeah,
chance
they're just,
to attend.
yeah, they're just all there.
Right.
It's cool. Wonder how long it's gonna be up. We probably should send something out to the list there.
I think it's there for a few
Well,
years.
we had said like you have access for like how many more months, but I don't think we can do it for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that is
Yeah,
kind of a big question though.
yeah, we'll have to
Keep
talk-
it on, keep it internal or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we, I actually kind of more per our discussion earlier today, I think we probably should just offer it as a member only benefit. I know we'd say something differently in our board meeting, but
Right, but yeah, because it's like, if that person, when they have a pre-recorded, they can post it on their YouTube and like
Yep.
keep that information available.
yeah.
So the difference between using feed loop and like just doing it like,
oh, yeah.
the difference between doing, so feed loop is an actual virtual conference platform, right? Like it allows you the networking and the exhibitor and sponsor calls. But you could just use a regular, you could just use a mobile app too. I mean, like Sked. I mean, the virtual conference platform gives you more of a, when you're doing 100% virtual conference, it makes sense to
Right,
use
so
it.
what you're saying for like hybrid.
Yeah, yes, but for a hybrid, you don't necessarily need to use a virtual conference platform.
Right.
Because you have some people there and really you just want to connect the two audiences. So you would
Just give them the content, because that's the point of the in-person is networking.
exactly. Whereas when you're doing 100% virtual, you want a platform that's gonna make it seem like you're at the event, right?
Oh.
Maybe both.
Probably do around here somewhere. Maybe try down there.
And
That's kind of how we got.
Down here. Oh, yeah, we got a lot of holes down here.
Yeah.
Oh, you come on. Oh, yeah, I forgot about the trail mix. Yeah, you guys take a trail mix too.
Used for traveling.
Maybe you want trail mix?
If anybody wants to watch this, somebody can get all this.
Yes, conference.
It always levels out.
But thanks for having some snacks.
Yeah, I was gonna bust them on this afternoon anyway, just tomorrow. Oh, well. Oh. Yeah, we're talking about it, so.
Snacks?
Yeah, we got cookies, trail mix.
I went on going to whole carrots.
Well, that's what I bought carrots for myself. That's usually what I use to take myself away. But I'm not gonna eat all of these. So
I thought those were Cheetos.
Oh, no.
They do look like Cheetos.
What the heck? You guys have cookies?
They never were disappointed though. Costco had a variety pack of cookies, but they didn't have a variety pack of muffins, so. Bummer.
I think so. He says he's in the middle of doing his class presentation too, so
Oh, yeah.
he's busy right now too.
Hey, Eric, you want a cookie?
I'd love a cookie, but I'm in the middle of drinking a Scotch ale as well, so I think I'll pass.
Wow. Oh yeah, it's Sunday. I'm like, what? A Scotch ale? It's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
You enjoy that.
I think we're gonna get back to it there, guys.
It's Sunday. Yep. I'm trying to decide whether I go to the golf.
We're not having a Scotch ale.
I do have beer now.
We're gonna have beers later though. It's still a little business today.
Ah. Business is better with beer.
Oh, there you go.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Eric's got his
I was
brew.
gonna say, does Minnesota
Beer
have a
lunch.
store, but they actually do have.
Come on now.
My husband always says it's a year of the Viking. I'm like, it's never the year. of the
Yeah,
Viking,
yeah.
Ever.
What is, Belt Creek Brew Pub, yeah, that's yep. Cascade County roots right there.
That's my early, that's a hat. I got that back when they first opened.
Wow.
The old pig's ass porter.
Yeah, hold up your
Yeah,
beer,
that's right,
hold up
yeah.
your beer again. That's a backcountry,
Scotch.
right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they still make
Scotch
that
ale.
beer? Hey,
What?
They're
This
the
one?
same.
Yeah, the backcountry.
Yeah.
Backcountry.
Belt Creek doesn't make any beer anymore, do they?
I don't know, don't they? Did they
Well,
go
it's
out?
it's that brewery that makes the beer now. I don't think the
Oh, you
the
mean?
pub.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they probably split out like a lot of these these beer houses. They split out their pub from brewery or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, they serve a lot of the beer down at the pub though. So
Yeah.
well, we're gonna skip ahead, obviously. Now we got Eric on the line.
Oh.
We're a little
Where
bit
are you
behind
guys still
schedule.
at?
We're a little bit behind schedule because our lunch took so long, but that's all right though.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, we have a little restaurant down here and we had a little lunch, so.
Our waitress only got 2 hours of sleep last night.
Oh, did you have
Really?
a restaurant in the lodge there?
Yeah.
Lodge?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of lodges and cabins in this area. It's double arrow lodges.
I know it very well. That's where I got married 28 years ago.
Oh, nice.
22 years ago. We had to use the whole facility when we got married. When you get married there, you have to be able to fill all the cabins.
Wow.
So-
Did you guys?
Yes, but it worked out. I had family and friends from Wisconsin coming out, and Christie's family is in Great Falls. Even though a bunch of them own cabins up in that area, they still stayed at the lodge.
Okay. Yeah, this is.
And then
this
those,
is wonderful.
if
Go-
you look down from that hilltop lodge and you look down towards the tennis court,
Oh, yeah?
just to the right of the tennis court, so nestled between the tennis court and the swimming pool area, those apartment looking buildings, those are the condos. And that's where Christy and I have timeshares at those condos.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, let's dive in a little bit. So this kind of came out of our Montana summit, and I know some of us have been talking this ever since we amended the bylaws 2 elections ago. And obviously Eric being in this position now with the MLIAC representative, we want to talk a little bit at the strategic planning here about maybe amending the bylaws again, but this time reinstating those voting privileges. So I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
You asking me or them?
No, Rob's going to talk here.
Okay.
100% clear to me why we made the decision to revoke those privileges. I wonder if we could review the rationale for that and then understand MLIAC's side of that as well.
Yeah, my understanding was, so it came from Catherine Maynard and Jenny Connolly, so they were kind of the initiators of that. And I believe what Jenny had told me, and I'm not 100% sure on this, is just Catherine felt like it wasn't necessarily needed for MLAC to have actual voting privileges on our board.
I guess I'll interrupt you there though. But did that view, that's what I'm wondering, because just because there was so much pushback or some pushback from the council perspective, did that message come from the council themselves? I believe it did not.
It came from Catherine,
Correct,
who was on the council, but I don't believe she brought it to the council before. doing
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
So
And I
yeah,
think-
to clarify, I think it was solely Catherine. I think, Jenny who revised them, and we had adequate time. I had adequate time to, as a board, Jenny sent that to us months before it was voted on.
Yeah.
So I don't know, probably wasn't seen as a big deal.
Well, and then
Didn't Catherine say that she has like some conflict of interest or
there was some other logic in it.
pressure in some way?
Yeah, I can't remember what it all was. It made sense, kind of, at the time.
Well, and then the other rationale, I think, so the second piece of it was, so the bylaws also amended the board positions themselves and kind of removed the appointed committee chairs and then made them more elected at large positions that then get appointed by the board, which committee represents. So that's how Phoebe kind of ended up with the conference chair. And I think Steve and how he ended up with member development. I think you're still on with committee chair or education from appointed. I think you're up this year.
No.
Right?
No.
Or no, you were part of that election too.
It
That's
was
right.
Part of that also, and it made it into an elected position. And
Yeah.
We had that election last year.
Yep. Oh, that's right.
Or this year.
Yeah, I'm getting 2 things confused. So the at-large positions are more of I guess I'm getting all that confused. So yeah, really, there's no at-large positions anymore.
Basically, all of the board positions
Are
became
elected. Yep.
positions.
Yep, and then being that this MLIAC rep position is the only board position that would not be elected by our members,
Yeah.
but I still think it's a very high-held board position coming from, being appointed from the council.
Right.
That's where I'm confused of why that voting privilege was then taken out. I mean, we're devaluing that position, not almost to the level of why the council should even have a representation on our board, because they don't get to vote.
And that's kind of what I've heard as
Yeah,
well.
I've heard that from Aaron Fashway many times.
Right, and I think maybe even Eric has expressed that. Yeah, why be on the board if I have no influence?
And if I may,
Yep, go for
Yeah, if I may, I reached out after I reached out this past week to both Aaron and then Jenny, once I found out Aaron was gone for the week. And the one response I got back was regarding that MLAC rep, the concern really was the difficulty of getting someone from MLAC to sit as the representative on the MAGIP board in the past, because it was a seat that was hard to fill. And her opinion is that it may be even more in the future, it may be more difficult to fill if that person does not have that opportunity to vote. If it's just really it's just there for communication purposes.
You're talking to Jenny Strapp, right?
Yeah, and so that was her opinion, is that
Yep.
in the future, it may be more difficult to fill that position, that board position from MLAC, the MAGIP board position from MLAC, if that MLAC rep doesn't have the opportunity to be a voting position. So,
Well, I think we kind of saw that though, after the bylaws officially took effect, and how long it took to replace Catherine. I think we're very grateful that that you were willing to step up, Eric. We appreciate that. But I fully agree with that statement.
Yeah,
And it also kind of devalues or decentivizes our relationship and our collaboration with the council as well.
Yeah, I did it really because in my opinion, in my viewpoint, it's really we have these two high level entities, and I think it's invaluable that there's representation and just in the form of having communication between the two organizations. That's really, whether I could vote or not is of no substance to me. It was just hey, I want to be able to hear what MAGIP's doing, and MAGIP should know what MLAC's talking about, type of thing.
Yep.
So, but it's true, someone in the future may be more strict in their interpretation, maybe, and would rather have a position where they could have, a better voice heard. I'm just of that opinion. Hey, I just want some open communication, so we're all kind of in line with what's going on. So.
Yeah, I think we agree it's critical to have that communication, but I kind of agree with what the notion comes to mind is skin in the game.
Yes.
Right? Otherwise, we could just send you the minutes from the meeting. If it's all about communication, and you don't have to be a board member, you could just be a representative.
That's very true. Yeah.
So Rob, to answer the question, Michelle found the string on what Catherine's response was for the logic, and it was simply because that the MLAC representative is appointed by the governor, and then becomes a MAGIP member not through the election process, but through that appointment process. And they felt that it wasn't appropriate that if they weren't elected, that they should have voting rights, and that's where it stemmed from. Is why Catherine thought that was the case. And then she had a string with Aaron Fashaway about it, and Jenny.
So kind of tied into what I said, that this is the only non-elected position from our membership.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a very highly regarded position on our board because of the collaboration that we want to have with the council and the relationship we want to have with them.
I hadn't heard that argument. That's an interesting argument, but I think you have a lot of boards out there that have members that are elected from their membership, but then they bring in that one or two outside voices. So,
well, if you look at the charter bylaws, there used to always be two members from the Montana Local Government GIS Coalition. I guess, Eric, you probably have more say on this, but so that was.
Yeah, it's true. That's a long time ago.
Yeah. But I was just reading that. I kind of had the breakdown of the board positions, and I saw that the two reps were from that coalition. So I thought that was interesting.
Ultimately, as a board, this is back when they did it, we had plenty of time to review it. I didn't look at it close enough and even thought about the repercussions of it. It didn't seem like it would cause the issues that it did. You know, initially, like you said, Jeff, we amended the bylaws to essentially change the positions, and this just kind of
And to clean up a lot of the language.
in there.
Yeah, and clean up a lot of the old historic
Yeah,
language within the
That was
bylaws.
the reason why we amended it, but then this
Yep.
was in there too. And
Yeah, I know Aaron kind of had a push to try to shut down those amendments, but I guess I looked at it from, okay, I agree with probably 99% of these amended bylaws. This was the only one that I disagreed on, and I guess coming onto the board, that was one of my things I was envisioning that we would look at to go back and maybe reverse. So I'm glad we're having these discussions. So
Yeah, I mean, I can see it on the MLEAC side, you
Yep.
know, that having that privilege taken away from you makes you wonder why we're there.
yeah, exactly.
But we're not MLEAC, we're MAGIP. So
yeah. I agree.
So is it MAGIP that appoints the person
no,
for us? So we're the ones that appoint
we have
the
a
person to
member
go to.
on the council as well.
Well, GIS, I think it's more of a GIS professional, right?
Yeah.
Mega, yeah. So yeah, that was the other coin of it as well. We do kind of, in a way, our membership does have a way of serving on the council, but it still is through a government appointed position.
Yeah.
So fulfillment.
So we have no say in who it is.
No, we do.
Oh, no. Well, I was just talking about MAGIP's representation on the council. We kind of do in a way.
Isn't that what
the
Eric
plan
does?
No, Eric's the
MLEAC
MLEAC
represents
to us.
Yeah.
to us.
Oh,
We also have
He's
to
local.
be an interloper.
yeah
on this
the other
side.
way.
yeah
Yeah,
he's the local Eric, you're still the local government rep on the council.
Well, that's an interesting conundrum right there, Jeff. I was.
Now you're a GIS professional, right?
I was, and then the lieutenant governor's office reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to serve as a GIS professional versus the local government. And at that time, I said, yeah, that'd be fine. And then I got my acceptance letter, my acceptance letter from the governor's office, and it said I met the criteria for local government. So, but then Jenny said that the spreadsheet they received says I was from the GIS professional group. So this coming week, I have to reach out and find out exactly which one I am. Am I local government either way I look at it, I'm going to serve whichever role they ask me to serve. So,
And then correct me if I'm wrong there, Eric, you were then appointed from the council to represent, I know there was I know we kind of pried you a little bit. Yeah, I know you were volunteered almost. We kind of.
Yes. Yeah. The council asked members who would be willing to sit on the MAGIP board. And I did. I volunteered for that. Yes.
But then that was a council decision though, right?
That was a council decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's what Michael was getting at. So cool. I think that pretty much covers it. Anyone else have anything to chime in on?
So I guess we talked about why it came about, and you think we should change it back. We should amend them, push the bylaws back up to the membership for another vote is what, obviously we wouldn't vote on it now, but that's what you're.
Yeah, we'll vote on at least the support by board members of who's in favor of amending the bylaws. And then, we'll take it to the election, assuming that you guys all are in favor of it, or the majority of you are in favor of it. It sounds like you are. But we'll vote on it tomorrow.
We're still talking about two different people.
No.
I mean, does Eric covers both sides, right?
He has an interesting role where he does do that.
Yeah.
Right, but you're saying that that's not necessarily the way it should be. We should have a second person from MAGIP too.
I mean, you're getting things confused.
Am I getting everything confused?
Yeah,
here?
We're only talking about one thing,
Okay.
and that one thing is for the MLEAC member who participates on our board.
And that's assigned by MLEAC.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't care what his role is on the council, as long as
Right.
he's on the council.
Right.
He
but
could be fed, state, whatever all the other
Right,
categories
right.
are.
And he gets nominated by the council and
Participates here.
participates here and then relays back.
Do we want him to vote or not?
Right, yeah, okay.
That's the
And,
question.
oh, yeah, okay.
So we didn't
Okay.
elect this person ourselves.
Right.
They were forced on us, so to speak.
Right.
Oh, do we
Well, I
like
got
to
no
keep
problem
them
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, communication and what Eric
Yeah.
was saying, I mean, just communication is key, I
Yeah.
think, for sure, but yeah, voting would be a good idea.
Yeah, so this does kind of play into the numbers a little bit. So that would make Eric the 11th voting member. Right now, we only have 10.
Hmm.
So I guess either way you look at it to get quorum, it's still 6 either way, I believe. Yeah, so it's still 6 either way. It doesn't really affect our quorum numbers, but it does affect the voting, the total voting numbers. So Eric, I guess you could be the tiebreaker if we were ever to be deadlocked. I don't know if we've ever been much deadlocked, but
Yeah, I can't picture you guys having a whole lot of deadlock, so.
And just to clarify, Mike, that's how it was before. It was just amended. So the MLAC member always had voting rights up until this amendment.
Yep.
Well, I was getting a little confused by the voting rights. I thought we were talking about voting rights on MLEAC.
no.
No, you're talking about voting for our stuff.
Correct.
They lost their right to vote.
Yeah, the
Since
one,
that time.
yeah, the sitting MLAC member on our board lost their right to vote with that last bylaws amendment that
Yeah.
came through.
In 2020, so 2 elections ago.
Yeah,
And the impetus behind that was because they were elected by,
because the logic at the time was because they weren't elected by the MAGIP membership, they were simply appointed
By the
By the
council.
council.
thrust upon us.
Yeah,
Right.
in a sense.
Oh,
But
I get it. No,
yeah,
Yep.
and that's,
I appreciate the
No, this is
dumbing it
the
down to my level there, but
This
yeah,
is-
I got
this is the forum for it. Nope.
yeah, I forget that, there's a lot of new members here that weren't there when this change happened.
I know I wasn't, so I think more than half of us weren't there.
Private proof is just me or Rob, actually.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, the whole email chain, there was a lot to it.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
So if they weren't a voting member, would they still be serving on our board?
Well, that's what Eric is now. He's
Eric
serving.
does
He's serving as a non-voting member
Like an ex.
on a yeah kind of like an ex officio, pretty much.
And so what about, there was ever a circumstance where someone was appointed to the MLEAC that we didn't have, or state changes or something like that?
Well, they typically would need to be a makeup member.
Okay.
But I mean, the board always has the right to kick somebody off, obviously, you know, if it's not matching up or whatever, say they're not attending meetings or just not fulfilling their board obligations. There is language in our bylaws that we can remove a board member.
no problem. If MLEAC representative comes to us, you know, has got totally different views.
Yeah,
than what
exactly.
We have, you know.
Yep.
At least that opens up conversation and debate
Yep.
and stuff, but you know, that's just one vote too.
Yep.
Well, I was thinking of that as well. You know, very rarely do we have contentious votes.
Yeah, very rare.
You know, but, you know, I guess we have to be cognizant of all possible ideas.
Actually, I think that's on our board page.
It's just, I mean, for the new board members, it drew a lot of backlash from certain MLAC members when that went through. You saw the push from Aaron Fashway, as Jeff had stated, to vote down the amendment.
Yeah.
And it's created some ill will. So the reason why, you know, Jeff and I had talked about it, just to reestablish that, to maybe build up some
Yep.
trust again.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
genuine feeling of being slighted
Mm-hmm.
and like, whoa, I thought we were friends.
All right.
You know?
This is one document we're going to have to revise just because our committee chairs have definitely changed, but
And it's important, and we, you know, I failed at reviewing the document. It's no one board member. You know, it's not, I said Catherine and Jenny, we had plenty of
Yeah.
opportunity to review it, the board members
Yep.
at the time.
Yep.
And, you know, we either reviewed it and didn't think it was an issue.
Mhm.
So it certainly isn't any one person's fault. It was great logic. It made sense, but at the same time, definitely understand certain MLAC members.
yeah. So here's the duties right here for the MLEAC rep. So that's essentially kind of the gist of what that representation, it's pretty basic.
Yep.
Michelle, I'm wondering, in your work with other organizations, do you see boards composed of appointed members? You know, like a situation like this, is
From like another,
that common or?
no, it's not real common.
Mhm.
I mean, we have, ex officio members from task board members, but I haven't seen like another representative from another entity.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's a little bit.
All right. It's good to recognize that.
I
Okay.
think ultimately it's up to you, policy board. So.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like there is a problem either way. It's just
No.
a political, look.
Yeah, right.
I think this discussion or this concept can tie into our next conversation about the legislation.
Oh, I mean, we could probably go right back into it. I think we can go right into it. I think we've pretty much got to. Eric, do you want to stick around for the legislation talk?
I'll mute you and I'll listen in the background if you're okay with that.
Yep, no problem.
It's up to you guys if you want me to. Like I said, I'm running through some exercises for Tuesday, and so I'm listening. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to listen while I'm here before I go up and grill some chicken. So,
Ooh, yummy.
If you hear anything.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking this back up again. I think the MLAC folks and Aaron and her company will appreciate you hearing that you guys are taking this up again. So, thank you.
Yep. Okay, go ahead there, Rob.
One thing I was thinking is that, through MLAC, we get a little bit more information about, the inner workings of the government.
Yep.
And thinking especially like Evan Hammer,
Is he still around?
Yeah.
I thought he retired too.
I don't know, maybe.
No, he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's essentially my boss's boss. So yeah, he's Michael and Aaron's and Troy's boss. So
Well, sorry.
So this whole thing about should we or should we not be involved in legislation? To me, this is an interesting topic. Back in a couple years ago, in the state library, really got like 30% of the GIS staff.
yeah, the state budget cuts and really hit the state
That was
library
a really
in particular.
heavy moment for our community. And I personally was a little bit disappointed with our lack of response.
Well, we didn't get a whole lot of heads up too. I know Jerry, we kind of made a last ditch effort, but it wasn't necessarily coming from MAGIP. It was more us individually, because I know I submitted a letter, and I think a lot of local governments did.
I actually heard Jerry talking in front of, I don't know if that was a MAGIP thing I was listening to, or one of the meetings Jerry was talking up there, trying to promote GIS and say, hey, look, we need GIS. We shouldn't be cutting us. And then of course he was going up against all the other handicapped people and
everybody has a need.
Everybody had a need.
Whose need do we not fill?
Exactly.
But I was thinking of it in terms of, and I think MLAC in the land report does some nice things like that, where they talk about return on investment and things of that nature. And I was thinking at that time of a good response from the GIS community would have been some acres and miles and dollars and some figures that we could point to and say, this staff supports this much business in the state. It was a big lift, right? We were not in a position to be able to do that, but you have to think, if you're a GIS professional and you're part of a professional organization, wouldn't you think that that organization has your backing?
That's how a lot of associations work, but I think they have a a little bit more leeway in lobbying. So I think it does kind of come back to our bylaws a little bit. And I think we've had this conversation through emails, you know, what's going to be our objective if we do this? I think we should take more of a stance in legislation, but, you know, is it more lobbying for these or is it more providing education?
Yeah, you know, so again, I know this is the question. I'd like to make it known too that I'm not necessarily advocating for us lobbying continuously.
Yeah.
Right. But if there's something that's really egregious that comes up, I think we should prepare a statement. You know, but also I think so. Right now, I work for a team, a national team. So I work for what they call the Washington office. So I don't work for a forest, or I don't work for the region. I work for Washington, D.C. and with people across the nation. And every week we have our staff meeting. There's somebody from legislative affairs, you know, who's coming from the Hill telling us this is what's happening in Congress this week. This is what they're talking about. So in that sense, I feel like if in just a very passive way, we could inform our membership about important things that are happening in state government. You know, that take it or leave it, right? And then we put it out there and be like, hey, this is happening. You know, you can vote on this if you want.
And there, just to bring this up, so in our Constitution, in Section 4, there's a statement on the association political activity. So, Jeff, I don't know if you want to bring that up.
I'm going to bring that
It
up
talks
right now.
about that the association may provide testimony or participate in limited lobbying to influence legislation, but shall not expend a substantial part of its budget in these matters, nor participate or intervene in the publishing or distribution of statements for any political campaign on behalf of a candidate. I'm gonna stop reading it.
Which article again?
It's Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I did remember reading this too. You know, so this kind of does back my angle or stance on this. I mean, I don't think necessarily we should be lobbying for these bills, but more like, you know, because we do whether we think about it or not, we represent our members. So I think it does. I think it's important for us to keep in mind that we are representing a very diverse group as well across the entire state. So that I think that by itself kind of does deter away from lobbying specifically for, like, for example, the I think it was that county bill that essentially increases the amount of funding for the clerk and recorder dollars.
Right.
You know, a big chunk of that went to the state library, but also the other big chunk of it that both of them got doubled, but stays within the counties for their GIS funds.
I think the last sentence is important in that article, or in that section. It states basically the individual member is responsible for what they say about political matters.
Okay.
So,
Well, that individual member might not want to go
what's that?
do the thing. They may come to us
Kind
to
of.
voice for them.
That's kind of what you know, because we did, you know, Mike Snook did approach us, you know, in asking for a statement from that county.
Yeah, I would think a lot of the individual people would not want to go up to by themselves. You know, they probably would want the backing of MAGIP come to us first to voice for them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. Anyway.
Do you remember? Maybe this was you, Rob. I mean, because I think we get a pretty significant amount of time of knowing what these bills are, and just because they go through draft throughout the year. And I think it would more than give us enough time to survey our audience. Was this your point? So I think if we served our membership and say we get 90%, you know, 90% of our membership, well, the surveyed membership, I should say, are in favor of this, we can at least you know, we wouldn't necessarily be lobbying for this bill, but we would be lobbying in a sense that 90% of our surveyed membership is in favor of this bill.
You know, that actually brings up a really cool way to do this. And I was thinking of something similar. I was thinking even in this last session, and Jenny Stapp kind of put out those things, right?
Yeah.
This bill is being voted on. It talks about this. It affects us like this.
Yeah.
And this is kind of that MLAC connection that I was talking about. If we could harvest that information and spread it to our membership, we could then take it a step further. We could have a survey, and that survey could feed a dashboard, which is on the website, and it kind of gives the pulse of our membership stance on these things.
Was it you that brought up the, I think it was last meeting, about like some kind of newspaper or something? I thought that was kind of good idea. I mean, that kind of, to get it out like monthly, have some kind of newspaper out. It doesn't have to be a paper newspaper or whatever, but something online maybe. Just giving them up what's going on.
DNRC did like and I wouldn't say we need to go to this extent, but they had a hub site set up for conservation type legislative bills, and then kind of their status when it was going to be voted on, things like that. I think at the very least we could do something like that for our membership. But I think though, if we're in favor of it, taking this information and actually testifying too, have one of us be the MAGIP voice, and this is essentially present the stuff that's feeding into that dashboard or the survey that we conducted on that related bill. We certainly wouldn't be the only association that would be, and I think yes, in a way it's lobbying, but it's more providing education or our membership's view on this particular bill.
Yeah. It's that requires somebody, or maybe even the body, to get together and to issue a statement.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily need to be a vocal testament, because I think they've been receiving written testimony as well. So we could, honestly get together as a board and come up with language of a testimony prior to the public hearings of this,
or a written statement that says,
written statement,
90% of our members, approve.
Exactly,
something like that, but not necessarily a firing squad for one person to go up there and all of a sudden not have any idea.
Exactly.
Right? Like, and then be liable for as
definitely
a representation.
I really like the idea of adding the numbers to it, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's not us. This is our interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have to remember, and I said this a little bit ago, we represent our members, whether we think about it or not. And I think surveying that voice, even though I don't think we get 100% participation in a survey, I think most of our communication probably just goes, in one ear and out the other. But I think we would still probably get 50% of our members to click on that survey and vote yes or no.
I think it'd be really slick, and if we can basically take the expertise from somebody who's involved in that, get an understanding of what the public discussion is about, and then we can do our part.
Yeah.
You guys are segueing from MLAC, and you're saying maybe that can be funneled, that information could be funneled
I'm
through
thinking
them.
because Jenny Stapp is the state librarian, who's the head of.
Yeah, she does a really nice job with her legislative reports that members on the council get that. Us at the state library get that, and it's a very, I don't know how much time she spends a week on these legislative reports. She's in on a lot of those legislative sessions too, listening as well.
Was that through the listserv, or was that just?
No,
Did I get
I don't remember getting anything.
Okay, I'm gonna Eric might have been forwarding those.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I think members on the council were getting it, and then us at the state library were getting it too. So
But that might be something that we,
Yeah, I think I forwarded that to Jason every time I got those.
Yeah, really helpful. Yeah.
they're very extensive. I was blown away, really.
If we're talking about our relationship with MLAC, that's where the rubber meets the road right there. And, that we could truly benefit or our membership could benefit by broadening that message.
Mhm.
And then MLAC can benefit by the survey that we post to the membership.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
They can get an
We
understanding.
have a venue for all this communication. I mean, our message, well, I mean, it might be too simplistic, but our message boards are kind of, they're getting pretty dusty.
Their
Well, that's a
history,
great
their-
avenue.
their legacy.
That's another great avenue.
There's some cobwebs in there.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, just in regards to like a publication or newsletter and stuff, I think. That's always been a struggle with a lot of organizations, like how many people, even within the county, like how many people truly read a newsletter anymore, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, our county does it once a month, you know, I breeze through it.
I breeze
look
through
at
it,
yeah.
but I think our IT staff says, yeah, I mean, 75%
You have a
are deleted
TLDR,
right
though.
away.
You have a nugget there, but you have extensive.
But
They can read
blogs or posts,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, that are updated constantly.
Conversational.
Yeah, conversational.
One thing I would think of in this respect, we want as many responses to the survey as possible. Right, so I wouldn't want to bury it behind a membership.
No.
I want that out on the listserv.
Yeah.
Well, just to give you a little bit of analytics on like who you're reaching, that like all those communications that go out through Wild Apricot. If they've sent to like 1,000, I think they're always sent to like over 1,000 people if they're sending to your general database. There's a 96% delivery rate and about a 33% open rate.
That doesn't surprise me.
But if you look at that, that's like the 200 and whatever active members, right, that are actually opening it. And the click rate is lower, but it's like a 7% click rate. But if they were very brief, like if you were doing like a legislative update or just like real brief, it's not like a long e-newsletter, but like just little blurbs, so someone's not having to scroll through it. You can send that out through. And I don't know the difference between, I know I've asked this before, so I apologize. The listserv, I mean, I know I send stuff out through Wild Apricot and a listserv, but is it the same people?
No.
And you talked about that earlier too, like consolidating or streamlining the communications effort. Like, what's the crossover between Wild Apricot database and the listserv, I guess?
Well, there's a lot of non-members or even out-of-state folks on the listserv, but not members. But I think you still have the other way where you have a lot of members that get our communication through Wild Apricot, but are not members of the listserv.
Can you restrict it?
So-
To only send to active members?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
As well as some of the discussion forums, I think that was at
Yeah.
the time.
So I would think though, in something like this, we would probably only be surveying our active membership. I mean, just because we're yes, I think we would want as many members as possible, but because we're an association, we would want to, and if we're wanting to voice our opinion, if we're wanting to voice our opinion, on behalf of the members, we would need to only survey those ones that are active.
That would be a member benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of the value you're getting as a member is you're going to get these legislative updates.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And to be a part of the surveys and.
That's what I'm kind of thinking about, there's a lot of parts to this because number one, you get the update, you get the information, but you also get to participate. Right? In the survey, whether you agree or disagree with that legislation or, everyone will have a question. And then that gets fed to the decision makers. So you're able to participate.
And the discussion forums, like I'm looking on there now, the local government discussion forum was last used January of 2020. So maybe just re-engaging those too. I mean, like reminding members that those are there.
That's kind of what I was saying before, that we have the base. The base is there, just, we gotta start promoting it a little bit or using it differently or.
Yeah. Well, and if you're posting to the listserv a link to get to the message board, I think it would be different because I think right now people are just probably posting. Well, obviously they're not posting right now.
Yeah.
But like if you're wanting to jumpstart a conversation that you don't want to capture in email, obviously, but more, hey, we're posted this. We'd like to get your guys' feedback on this.
Yeah.
Please post here.
A member
Yeah,
per-
remember. Yep.
only members can see it and view it. And I think
Yep.
that was the intention. That was at the
Right.
time.
There's a lot of information in there. If you scroll through there, it
Yeah.
used to get used a lot. I know message boards. I mean, you can maybe we should rename it to blog, but
Or you're
I don't
you're
know.
talking about the discussion forums,
Yes.
right?
yeah, the discussion forums, they haven't been used in so long.
But they can be.
Yeah.
And, right now there's just two websites.
Yeah, and they're not
Oh,
heavily.
no, I think there's a,
promoted.
No, if you go to members,
Right.
there's a discussion.
It's called.
Or no, resource. Discussion.
Oh, see, those are two, there's also the special interest groups that has the discussion forum right here.
Yeah, sounds like we got a little
Those
too
are both-
many. Yeah, maybe
Uh,
narrow
We
it
don't really
down
have
to one or
resources.
something.
I think the only thing we could potentially put there is a little.
Discord, we had,
Okay,
there's
then-
plenty of
Script, but-
discussions there
Then these,
during
Yeah.
the event,
Yeah,
and
right.
they got pretty in-depth.
yeah, I think you do one or the other, but, I think you could re-engage these, because look at that last time that one was used, these were used was 2019.
They haven't been promoted at all, but that was the reason for it many years ago when the web committee decided to create it, was to promote internal, essentially, membership engagement outside of the listserv, because the listserv reaches anybody and everybody, which is fine. But if you have a specific, question maybe for, MAGIP members, that's where you can throw it.
Well, and you can put you can upload resources to this too. So it's a
Yeah.
great tool.
Well, and it's captured in a place that's kind of archived and kept too. I mean, our emails eventually get deleted.
The only way something like that will work is through a push notification system. To be honest, the only way, like, if you're getting notifications.
Well, I think there is options to subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but unless you subscribe to it, you don't get it. So you have to somehow get the word out to
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
that you gotta subscribe to it. Because
And
if you don't, then you're not gonna
That
get
could
it.
be a push from us
Reminding people.
easily.
That makes sense, but-
But it's a really good tool, and maybe it just needs to be
Yeah.
refreshed in people's minds. And that might be a good place at the conference to talk about it.
Well, and if we put a topic out there, like something in legislation, and somebody wanted to comment on it, I think it would get used. But right now, it's not getting used because nothing's being put on it or even promoted to put on there.
Yep.
So.
And this is not the legislature is not in session this year. right?
No, it's 2023.
So.
So-
we could kick the can down the road a little bit, but I do think we should get our act together, have our act in place.
That's why I wanted to
By
put
the
it, that's
next
why I want,
session.
yeah, that's why I wanted to put it on this strategic planning, because I wanted to talk about it now instead of next summer. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I like your suggestion too, like maybe there's too many.
Well, I was just reading off of what Daisy guys were saying, maybe consolidate a little bit on the
Yeah.
message boards and the communications and stuff.
Is there any sort of, Jason brought this up when we were talking in the kitchen, but is there any avenue where this falls on, like, responsibility wise?
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing's gonna happen. I mean, there's a lot of these that come up and there's a wave and it just crashes into the rocks, because
Yeah.
there's gonna be a different board in 2023.
Yeah.
So I mean, having it in the strategic plan is great, but
So part of what I'm sorry if I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but I guess I'm leaning towards some mechanism of automating the dissemination of legislative information to our members, and then capturing our member response. Because you don't necessarily have time to do it, or nor do you, yet we recognize it's a good idea. Right. So
Right.
how can we take that information and channel it, so that it can continue to happen when we're not here?
Well, and I think, just because if you think about it too, yes, it's in 2023, but it's on the front end of 2023. And a lot of the work actually happens at the end of 2022. So we're actually talking about next year.
Yeah.
We're not really talking about 2 years down the road. So I think if we bring it up now, it's more like a kind of a goal. I wouldn't really say it's part of our strategic plan as a work plan goal this year, but it's gonna have to be in the work plan for next year. And most of us, or at least 2/3 of us, will be still on the board on the front end of that. I mean, I would technically be off the board, I think, by the time legislation would be going into session, I think. So I think I'm off the board in June 2022. But
You already count the days?
no, I'm not saying though. So I mean, Michael does have a good point, but I think you know, traditions, you know, a lot of our traditions that we still kind of have today have existed for many years before. And I think as long as we keep talking about it, you know, so legislation is a big discussion, involves a lot of planning, but we're talking about the planning that's going to have to start next fall. You know, and at least a 30 you are going to be a part of that. But if we pass it along this year and next year, more than 2/3 of the board are already going to have heard about it once, if not twice.
Yeah.
So are we talking about a mechanism to keep us all informed, all our members informed of what legislative decisions are going to go down or may affect?
A voice,
our
a
livelihood?
voice.
Yeah, sadly, that's me making that message. I'm saying it would be nice if that we could take the information that's coming out from close to the governor, you know, from the council, and then sharing that with our membership, allowing them to be informed about potential legislation. There could be additional steps where we could harvest member sentiment
Through surveying and stuff.
through surveying on these things. And then I'm thinking, as a third thing, if there's a topic that's significant enough, we can use that member response and comment, you know, send a letter to the governor and saying, you know, 90% of our membership is in favor of this or against it.
And you're strictly talking with GIS components, right? Because we haven't really specified that.
Yeah.
Well, and I wouldn't necessarily a letter to the governor, but you know, the legislation kind of has the place to put that. It's more through public testimony. Yeah.
And it's not a political statement. It's
correct.
A quantitative assessment of our professional community.
It's what represent our membership or the majority of our membership.
We want to know 90% of our membership doesn't
Community,
like this.
right?
Now, if the survey comes back and it's 55-45, there's probably not a clear stance there. We're probably not going to comment.
Well, I mean, and looking back to what you brought up with the Constitution, that you know, we're not there to, you know, start throwing the hammer down on everybody on every legislation. Say, hey, look, this is what we want. This is, you know, we'll make a voice, let people know, you know, if it pertains to us, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And we're an obscure group of people to some extent, right? But to have the ability for decision makers to have the ability to know what our stance is.
Yeah, or our community stance is. So in a situation where Missoula County approached State Library?
No, approached us as the board makeup.
Okay. And asked for
was
support?
Yeah, it was what if makeup was going to testify or comment on I think it was the House Bill 49, which the county R wants.
Okay.
You know, had we had sent out a survey, so this goes into our pre-legislation planning, I think we would have probably found more than the majority that would have been in favor of this, just because of what our membership makes up of. Obviously, everyone within state government would have been in favor. Everyone within county and cities would most likely would have been in favor. You know, so then it probably comes down to the rest of the membership, which is still a pretty good portion. And but it's kind of like with Michael though. His company, obviously, they do work for local and you guys don't do states, right? Just locally, just local governments. Okay, well, you guys do work for, you know, that they tap into these funding mechanisms. So the more funding available, really more work for you guys eventually. So, or potentially more work for you guys, kind of in a channel. So.
But that would have been an example of where we would go out.
Yeah, I mean, there was only two. I mean, I know Jenny sends out that legislation report. You know, obviously the library, we have a very diverse, you know, angle of legislation. I think we would be interested in a very small slice of that. So we could obviously tailor that report to just what our memberships are in, or what our membership is interested in. And I think it was probably just mainly those two bills. You could have thought of a third or a fourth that had a spatial component, maybe the broadband mapping bills. But other than that, I think House Bill 49 and 50 were the two main ones, with the county dollars, and the House Bill 50 being the next gen 911 dollars going to the state library. So which both of them passed.
So as we plan for it, do we want?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, how do we want to keep engaged? Do we need somebody to research? And I mean, the state library obviously had done a good job, but that's based on, their interests.
Yeah.
Right. Like, do
Sounds
we?
like we need to retweet things.
Have you guys had, maybe we've talked about this before, communications? Like you have all your other committees.
Right.
Have you had a communications committee, or have you talked about, like, could you establish a communications committee? And like that person would work with the local government chair or whatever to get that information?
It does seem like the C word is something we've been using a lot here today.
I mean, I feel like, because, as far as like getting out some kind of an e-blast or e-newsletter, I can certainly push that out to the database. I would just need somebody to put the content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a communications person, that we just know that every other month, monthly might be too much, but every other month or quarterly, hey, Michelle, I could say, remind everybody, hey, you guys, I'm gonna.
Well, I was thinking our neighborhood newsletter here.
Right.
Well, we technically have the social media. I know it's not necessarily much of a committee right now, but
You're pretty much doing it.
I put out a lot of the social media stuff.
I think that's a good avenue to get the information out, but I'm just talking about like the back end. Like once these bills come up, who researches it and consumes it and tries to figure out, okay, I think this,
Well, I think we can rely upon our existing relationship with MLEAC too.
Yeah.
Because we
just take that. We take what they're putting out.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then maybe we could even ask Jenny because she does such a nice job with the write-up of the bill, put in a question at the end. Like we could have something with a yes, no, thumbs up or down.
Well, we could take that though and put that question in there, that survey in it. Is that what you're talking about? Incorporating that survey within that?
Yeah, that's the link part. Yeah. Right. And then.
But that, I guess those would happen almost prior to the report. So once we know, okay, these 3 or 4 bills have GIS components to them, I think we would then have to either as a board, or I guess if we have an established little communications, or we can even tie in with Rob's committee a little bit too, but like I think we would have to probably sit down and talk about, okay, or is this a bill we want to survey our membership for? Right. So there would have to be some pre-planning involved on the board side, and then whoever's going to handle this legislation stuff. So we
should have like a legislative dashboard.
Yeah.
Off the website or something. And that's what I'm talking about, that automation piece. Right. So we gather an understanding of what's in play. We put out a simple survey related to it that gets funneled to the dashboard, and that's the report.
Well, I was gonna ask, who would do that? But my other question would be is who else really dives into the legislation stuff? I mean, we're kind of relying on Jenny.
MLEAC,
to write up these great reports that I've never seen, but I'm assuming they're great. But
I think we would.
It's more like, hey, here's a bill. This is what it means.
That sounds great. I mean, that would dump down to me, my level, and that would be better.
And then she puts dates in there. Okay, it's going to go to because I think it goes to some sort of the committee. So whatever committee it's assigned to within legislation, there's a group of folks within the legislation that are on each committee, and I think there's some crossover. You got people serving on multiple committees, but then they have a testimony and a public comment period, and they must, I think they probably hear both in-person testimony, I don't know if they do recordings, but then they have written
Yeah.
testimony as well. So that, I think that's where ours would come into play, is the written testimony.
Well,
But prior to that, I guess prior to that though, we would need to know which bills that we would want to survey our membership to.
well,
So,
exactly, and I think that much of the time we don't do anything.
yeah, we have, the next legislation, there might not have it, we might not have any GIS.
Right.
You know, but we're probably talking about, you
But
know,
when there is, then we
Yep.
should have a mechanism in place that we can.
Yeah, like the.
refer to.
I think there was
like
two
the
bills.
reporters, and it's not even GIS technically related, right? It's, yeah, I mean, that wasn't, it's more funding for the GIS community. It was
And that's-
definitely not.
And see, that's the cool part,
Yeah.
right? Because, yeah, this was a bill to charge $1.95 instead of $1.50 on a, when you record something at the county clerk's office.
It was greater than that, actually. So the county got bumped up from 25 cents to 50 cents,
Right.
and then the state portion got bumped up from 75 cents to $1.50. So it doubled on both sides. So very significant
But-
portion.
You know, what we're getting at is, this is a bill on recording fees.
Yeah,
We
yes.
happen to know that those recording fees fund
Yeah.
Land Information Act.
Here's why we're.
Yeah,
default.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't even know
You
that.
didn't know that? Okay, let's just, you guys know about that? Yeah, you guys. do, right? So for every page that gets recorded, there's a fee. Doesn't matter what you're recording. You can record that you love chocolate ice cream, pay $1.95 to have that in the records.
It all depends on your government too, because I guarantee you that
So
our
we get a
GIS doesn't see a penny. of it.
so your common one is
portion
your,
of that money goes to the Land and Water Conservation.
Yeah.
To the Emily Act, to the council, and then they distribute that money through the grants to local governments.
yeah, well, and actually a lot of the staff at the state library get paid on those dollars too. So, and I don't know how the counties use it, but I'm sure the counties use it in ways of mostly of either applying for grants or probably boosting up their technologies too. So,
We get back to the dashboard thing. Don't we have aren't you the head of the technical group? Isn't there a technical?
I
group?
am.
Not that I'm wanting us to you, but I mean, like our different committees and stuff. I mean, if we come up with some kind of dashboard thing, I mean, that'd be something to kind of go to the technical and say, hey, you know, that's something that maybe, I don't know. I'm just not that I'm pawning things off on everybody, but that might be a good idea, you know, a little project for the committee, the technical committee to work on, you know, kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's a technical committee thing.
No, okay.
I just don't, based on how the technical committee is laid out. I mean, like.
Well, that's fine. It was just a nice.
The workshops and then like the equipment. No, I definitely a good idea. I just don't necessarily think that's a technical committee thing. So it's, I'm not really.
yeah,
Kind of like circling back to this communications.
Yeah,
we are.
Yeah,
we
I
are.
think you guys need a communications committee.
yeah,
Every other association in
Yeah.
Newport has a communications committee.
yeah.
And they
There's like a
just do-
PIO that people don't really. kind of-
You just need to point it, yeah, because all the stuff you're talking about, even earlier in the conversation, when you're talking about getting word out about what you're doing in the community and those kind of things, you need a central avenue for that, and somebody who's kind of, I mean, all the ideas are great, but you need like a person maybe to. And some people love to do that and are good at it.
Remember, you know Diane
Yeah, that's-
Papineau, right?
Yeah.
She did that for the state library. I mean, she was kind of that hybrid communications GISer.
Who was that?
Diane Papineau. Did she say that?
I was gonna
No,
ask- I was
no,
gonna-
she-
I was
she was
gonna
part of
ask
the-
if
she was-
retired too. 'Cause
No, she was part of the
been around
cuts.
for a while.
She was part of the cuts.
Oh,
Yeah,
she
she
was?
was
Oh,
Yeah, her, Keith Blunt.
no, I can't see it, but thank you for the update. I appreciate it.
It looked like a handoff to Madison.
2117.
Yeah, I'll touch on it.
But she's still
Right, I don't
updated.
know.
But- So we did a fairly good job at going through the committees and reassigning, or, you know, redefining what they do. Maybe that's a process we could continue. Right?
Could do ad hoc too.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good ad hoc route. That's under an existing committee.
Well,
So kind of like what I said, like, I guess this kind of gets to my last point from earlier today. kind of pointing to membership development and then trying to offshoot the local government ad hoc working group, special interest group, whatever we want to call it. It's I wouldn't say it's totally up to that chair to keep that going, but we kind of need a, kind of a bridge of, okay, if it's Stephen to Tommy and then the committee, so it almost would need to be, say we put it under, I don't even know if I wouldn't say, let's just, for example, we put it under the education committee. It'd be a Rob to whoever, let's just say Phoebe. Not saying it's gonna be you, because talking about a board, talking about a non-board member.
What's gonna happen?
No, but this would be a non-board member though. This would be a non-board member, so it'd be Rob to non-board member, and then basically communications subcommittee or ad hoc, whatever we're gonna call it. So I don't know. That's
Maybe your web subcommittee could be web/communication.
Well,
that's
kind of what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I think that's me.
okay. Well, that's a good example too.
Although it's different, right? I mean, like,
Yeah. If you feed Megan info,
yeah, I'm kind of the same way. If you feed me info, I can do it, but you gotta have somebody to like,
We can
Somebody has to create the message.
exactly. That's the communications.
Yeah. What is the message?
Yeah, we're gonna have to think about this.
I mean, is that a number at large position? Like,
Not currently.
I just know next time we broadcast that, it's just gotta be like, you can list this position on your resume as like we call it a communications.
Call Mega PIO.
Maybe this is something we should incorporate. Create another board position.
But you can
Or
put an
just
ad
look
hoc
at the
committee chair.
overlap that we currently have in some of the committees and, can it just be can one committee just assume new roles?
Yeah, we could do that too, I think. Yeah. Are you volunteering the education committee?
Education/outreach or something.
I mean, I honestly, I
Yeah.
have a passion for this as well. So I would be more than happy to be involved in this ad hoc as well. But I think it would take, and I think we could probably tap on a few other shoulders and more people within local governments as well that have a passion within this as well. And they would be more than happy to help us out. But I guess, having a point, I don't necessarily know if we have a point person.
This committee is just scholarship and grants. I think it's
Correct.
best under member development, and I know that's a lot.
I know.
But I mean, if you're able to delegate, it's Steve, and that's still not for Steve, but that's where it fits best.
It does.
Because technical committees is the workshops based on the bylaws, workshops and technical issues. And then conference committee, obvious.
Yeah.
And scholarships and grants, very focused.
Yeah, well, this obviously gets back to my previous point, but like even if I was to volunteer to be this point person, Steve would obviously just kind of oversee this ad hoc committee, and then I would assemble the communications ad hoc committee and probably be amongst non-board members. So kind of tying back into my trying to lessen the dependence on the board and trying to get more of our MAGIP members more involved here, I think. And then there's a very narrow, I wouldn't say narrow, but there's a very clear agenda within this legislation update. And it's a very small window too.
but your communications, it's not just legislative.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
I think this is where the murkiness just emerged,
And,
right? So number one, we're talking about communicating and legislative information, and then we got into this, well, we need a broader committee focused strictly on communication.
Yeah.
So I do think we could handle the legislative stuff with a more of an ad hoc approach.
Yeah.
As it becomes apparent, but I think we need a structure for it, right? Like that's why I was thinking of the steps of harvesting information and then plotting that information. Just to create the structure for when we need it.
Do you think that's an elected position or even a appointed position that we create off kind of just stemming off from the board? Because I think we have the power to do that too.
I do, and Jason, maybe
maybe
somebody, right? This is the kind of thing when you're like, hey, listen, we just had this meeting. We have a need for this kind of thing. would you be interested in working on? Right, maybe
Yeah.
somebody either in your committee or somebody that you know in the membership that might like a little task. That might be a cool approach. But yeah, then I do recognize the need for that.
Well, and what's, and I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but what's I guess what is it? Why does it have to fall under a committee? Why can't we just have an appointed position off that just stems off the board, and that's their role? Yeah,
That would be someone
because
who's
then
elected that.
no, this would be appointed from the board.
Oh.
Yeah, so they wouldn't be a voting member. They would essentially that's their role, their communications role.
Yeah, there's nothing in the bylaws that says ad hoc committees need to report to another committee. It's just that they need to report to the board at least.
Exactly, that's
at
what I'm
least quarterly.
thinking of. Yeah.
So this non-board member would just need to report to us quarterly in order to, not that bylaws are that
Yeah.
strict. Really.
Do you have a social media subcommittee?
And it's ad hoc kind of, but
Because that's.
it's not
I mean,
really
that would
active
be
right now, but
Because
it's
that
just
would
me.
be, does not need to be separate from the. I mean, you wouldn't have communications and social media, they're kind of the same, so that.
Oh yeah, we could just lump
would tie
those.
together.
Yeah, we could just lump those. Like I said, I would probably be more than happy to help out on this. I wouldn't say I'm the point person to do the communication, but
Hey, let's just step back for a quick second because we seem like we're getting into the details of how to do it. Are we interested and in favor of distributing information about legislation, and when we feel it's egregious that we have a voice? Maybe those are two different things, but maybe we should think about that first. Is that a road we don't want to go down? And if we do, then we can start. talking
Yeah.
about the mechanics
instead of
it.
putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
I don't think maybe it should make any sense. I'm just.
I-
You know, there's always this potential you send somebody. Maybe there's somebody who, you know, I even thought of it when the individual sent it to us. I can't remember his name. I'm like, what if we broadcast this saying? this would be great?
Mike Snook. Missoula
Mike
County.
Snook.
Yeah. Missoula
You know,
County.
somebody's like, this is, I don't know why I'm gonna their life's harder, but you know, we've had people email us about things we've said that upset them. You know, that's part of it, I guess.
That's why I think it's important to incorporate surveying our membership,
Yeah.
because
No, I like
because
that.
the board wouldn't be taking a stance. It's our membership taking a stance.
Yeah.
90% of our members support this.
Yeah, we're representing the membership. Yeah, and not
We're not directly saying mega.
as a board, we're
Yeah.
not saying.
Yeah, the mega board of directors supports this bill. We're not saying that at all.
Right.
Our member, 90% of our members.
We're
So
representing our members.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Publishing
I like
unbiased
the
news.
verbiage to it, and in fact, it doesn't even have to be any words. You know what I'm saying?
Numbers.
It's
Like you
the
said,
graph
right?
that shows 90%. You interpret that as if we support it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just what it is.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
And then our communications committee can make the graph.
Yeah, and they can send the email, send a link to, you know, the governor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's like, yeah.
Well, the public testimony. but
I
yes.
think people would probably be surprised that we don't currently do that or offer that, right?
That's-
Well, and I think that's why we got, I don't think Mike Snook was the only one that responded either.
Sure.
And I think even the state library even kind of approached me, you know, I think Aaron
Okay.
mentioned something is.
What was this in regards to? I mean,
This was House Bill 49, the increasing of the county, just like what Rob said, the clerk and recorder fees.
Was he against it?
Mike, no, he was in
Oh.
favor of it because
Oh, he is.
Missoula County, they used a lot of that money because they've been applying for the MLEAC funds for a while, you know, and a lot of, and yes, they obviously have the staff to support it, but they take a lot of that funding and then they hire contractors to do the objective of the grant. So, and that's what Aaron's doing with, you doing with the state route, the 911 advisory role.
what we already done?
Yeah, what you guys have already done with the
Yeah.
next gen 911
Yeah.
and what I had started, but you finished. with the MWEAC funding that I applied for when I was there. That goes to support Next Gen 911 and the GIS data as well.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I'm thinking that this mechanism that we're talking about, I think it's highly applicable to the legislative stuff.
Yep.
But I think it's just a nice way, and maybe a way for us to move forward in understanding our membership. You know, like the salary survey is like an attempt at understanding our membership.
Yep.
But maybe through more frequent questions to the membership, we can understand how we refer to certain issues.
You can gauge sentiment, or we're getting feedback on what they do and how the sentiment towards the,
Yeah,
get the temperature basically.
yeah,
Our members and what they feel.
Yeah.
Legislation.
or even from the salary survey, there's certain things that come up as like, that's interesting. Let's ask more about that.
like GISP stuff.
Right. That's
It's
actually
a
what was
mystery.
on my
That's a
mind, yeah.
mystery. It is. That's I think that's something that I don't think it's just a Montana issue. It's a
Mhm.
nationwide GISP issue, and the validity of it too.
Yeah.
So, I think it holds more validity in the private sector. Michael can contest to that with your position, but.
Are they worried about being irrelevant?
Well, I mean, just look at our local and state governments. I don't think I can think of one GIS position that requires. I've seen several that would I think they highly encourage a GISP. But I guess chime in there, Michael. I think you guys are offering an incentive program for.
Yeah, there's a bonus program. So
Yep.
if you get your GSP, they give you a spot bonus of
Yep.
money. It's I don't know, I think it's a good thing for, look at any industry, the professional engineering, BLS surveying, the list goes on and on, all these different acronyms.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's one of the gaps was an exam wasn't there before, and there's an exam, and that's when our company recognized it. As soon as that exam came in place, there was some.
Need on the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
DNRC is actually doing something interesting this year. They're because I've heard from Brian Collins about this a couple times. They are taking upon themselves as a GIS team to essentially all get GISPs or take the exam. I think they're starting this winter. So I think that's really cool. I think that's a really cool step. Maybe a really cool first step.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes with DNRC.
Not to get on a conversation with GISP. I think it's interesting because I was grandfathered in, right? I didn't have to take the exam, but having to renew it, there's qualifications and things like that, and
money involved too.
Money involved, but also, I mean, it's a justification for your commitment to the community, right? It's being involved with conferences and presenting or articles, things like that, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
An exam, you do it once and you're done. Like if I took the exam now, man, it might be difficult because
I failed the first time I took it.
So it's just an interesting certification.
It has both those components.
For sure.
Like you said, because you need to continue to contribute to MAGIP and other things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to renew.
Yep. So
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I just renewed at the end of 2020.
Okay.
I thought, but when I first got it, it made the same impression on me. I was like, man, I got all the education in the world. No problem.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I gotta
be involved.
engage.
Yeah. Engagement. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Exactly.
and so it did actually change the trajectory of my career, by getting more involved.
That was the only, not only reason, but that's a big reason why I got involved with MAGIP.
Yeah.
OpenStreetMap, GIS Corps. Those are the reasons why I sought out those organizations.
Interesting.
Is to get that certification, to
Yeah.
get the points.
Right.
Because I remember the first OpenStreetMap thing I did, I got like 2.5 for like 6 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
This sucks.
Yeah.
You look
Yeah.
at Megan, you get like 3 points for
Yeah.
right on it.
Well, and not to say this was like the only reason why I got my master's.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this was the only reason why I got my master's, and I, honestly, I think that's kind of what you guys have alluded to, where it's kind of taking your career to the next level or to down another path. You know, what I was first excited about was just adding that MPS to my resume, and I mean, I even have it on my on my email responses too. But then your next one is GISP. You know, there's so many people that have your GISP, comma, MS or MA, or mine's MPS because it's Masters of Professional Studies. So it's
That makes me think about listing MAGIP on your personal resumes too. I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. And it's something I too want a lot. Like even as a consultant, I put it on our projects.
Yeah.
That I'm
Sure.
a part of it.
Yeah.
And this is just totally off kill here, but at some point thinking of ways to just advertise that this is like a position you can put on your resume. It's a great career builder. And that's what Brian Anderson said to me when when Rob, when first talking to you guys when I first got on the board. But it stems a little bit from that GISP thing. It's another resume builder.
Yep.
You sending resumes out a lot, are you?
For project proposals.
Yeah, right.
All the time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so they include our resumes in all those project proposals.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the team that's going.
Well, it's more like your project team credentials almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
in a way, yeah. Because when you apply for grants, it also asks for that information too. So you just went through that with the MWAC stuff. It asks for your project team credentials essentially. Why you have to pretty much state your case. And
Well, grants outside of MLAC are even more intense.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they want years of experience. They want
Fine-tooth
what qualifications you have, what sort of education requirements or degrees or certificates.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I know GISP wasn't on our agenda, but it's a good discussion to have, and I don't know what impacts that MAGIP has. I know our GISP education is kind of lacked. I mean, obviously, I think some of that stems from having a virtual conference, but we've always tried to have a GISP doctor's office at our conferences, and I think we should continue that.
There's a tie in the membership too, in those enticements, being a member, having those professional GISP people that offer assistance for those who are trying to get feather in their cap,
Yeah.
You should reach out to the Certification Institute. They did a presentation for YGO.
Okay.
Webinar. I think that wouldn't be too hard to read. I forget his name. Dill Hodges resigned, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, resigned? Oh, well, I think
Or did
he retired, but he's still really active. Yeah.
You could just ping him on LinkedIn right now.
Yeah. I think that would be cool to broadcast that for our members.
I mean, it's a kind of a current topic.
Yeah, it is. Totally is.
Engage that.
Yeah, and the test is coming up in a few months, so December. So it's a good time to start planning for it.
That's true.
Hey, Mike, the Vikes scored another field goal. They're driving. It's 24-17.
Just tease me now, man. That's just teasing now.
Is it GISCI? Is that what the?
Yeah, it's GIS. Yeah, that's
Certification is-
Okay. Just make a note of that. So.
Is the floor kind of open right now, or did you?
No, we're kind of right now just kind of the overview and final comments. I think. I don't think we're ready for breakfast yet.
Good breakfast.
Tomorrow.
We need a page break.
Yeah, we better put the order in.
Yeah. There was one thing I sent through, and this came up at, it was like 2 council meetings ago, that MLAC was looking at revising the state's GIS standards, and they just asked.
Oh yeah, this was another thing you want to talk about. Yeah, we can talk about it now.
MAGIP would participate in that. Like MAGIP was the original stewards of it way back when. It's on our website. I don't know who did that, but I think now it's MLAC's taking point on it, but how we would contribute.
Do you have that document? I'll pull it up. You know where it's at?
Yeah.
What was that?
Denver's winning.
The geospatial, like the GIS standards for the states.
Like the best practices?
Yeah, best practices. There you go. Now I'm using the wrong words.
I think if I just search best practices, I should be able to find it. I know we took down the link of it, but I'm sure it's still on our back end.
Yeah, I mean, it was deprecated for sure, but that's why they want to revise it.
I hate this internet.
Who is this initiative coming from? Is
It
it?
was Erin Fashaway that brought it up, and it was actually at a council meeting, and this was actually at the Big Sky Geo Conference.
Yes, I missed it, but I think it came out of the technical
It was,
committee
yeah,
several years ago.
Chris Stump
Yeah,
created that document a long time ago.
Yeah, it's something that you could definitely approach with your committee there, Jason, or committee that you want to form.
Yeah, essentially a way to standardize all the statewide information, right? Like, and all the different departments using the same data, trying to make sure that everyone is using the same, MSDI framework.
I think it's this MSDI. Goodness, internet.
MAGIP best practices standards page. So here, yeah, it's not.
Goodness gracious.
I remember Curtis, when he was the
Chair.
chair of that committee.
All right,
I
dump it.
think there was some adamant voices, against
Yes.
having best
Chris
practices.
struggled like
Yeah, and that's
hardcore
why
with
I
it.
think MLAC was going to do it. It's just that, if MAGIP wants to contribute in some way.
Are you sure that MAGIP or Emily was going to do it? I thought they were going to rely upon us to do it,
No,
or to
it
collaborate
was-
with it.
One thing I know for sure, it wasn't relying upon us.
Oh, that might be better.
Yeah, and that's what they said. That's why they brought it up. They're like, MAGIP.
But I haven't heard about it since, though. I don't think it's been
I
brought up in
haven't seen
any
it
other
on the
council.
agenda, But
Well,
Yeah,
when's your guys' next meeting? Is it November, the rub?
Yeah, it was supposed to be on the 16th of September, but that got canceled.
Yeah, that's right. That was in the last
Well,
meeting, so then-
maybe we approach Aaron and Jenny about it and see if we can start discussions. I mean, it has to be on kind of a side note for now, or
here, I got the link right here, Jeff. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, November 18th. November 18th.
send it to my Gmail.
Jeff.
What?
November 18th is the next MLAC meeting.
Yeah, okay.
That's what the normal-
Yeah, because I think they canceled the September or well,
What is your Gmail?
Talking about basically all the different
Jeff.Hedstrom
agencies using
07 at Gmail.
data from the state library.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, kind of.
everybody's using the same corporate data
Yes.
to do
Well,
their
on top-
analyses.
On top of that, the counties that are feeding data into that also being
It's on Drive.
being
so
the same
That's where I found it.
data,
It's in
so
the
that there's
technical
no
committee
manipulation
drive. I
to try to
sent
get
you
it
an
into what
email.
the state is using kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Um,
everybody's using the same format.
yeah, and at the time, web services were just becoming kind of another standard or another option. So how do we get, especially the state entities to use the same information, so there's not that dissemination. I just remember going to meetings, and there was a lot of contention.
Which
It's at the top.
Which
Sorry.
one's the
really
this right here?
No.
opinionated,
Yeah.
stuff with it, and
Well, we, on the Forest Service side.
Yeah, you
we
sent
have
the
what's
folder.
called the Enterprise Data Warehouse.
Yeah.
Which is, also, it's just like the MSDI.
Here, I'll have a better link here in a second.
No worries.
We're trying to get everybody to use those data because, they get refreshed.
Always
it's-
happens.
Yeah.
But people are like, no, I grabbed it last month. I
Yeah.
have it on my desktop.
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
And that's the same struggle.
yeah.
Yeah, old fashioned way is, well, I mean, for the addressing,
Structures,
yeah, the addressing and everything, he's really trying to get everything centralized on that, for the whole, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I tried to.
But that would fall, it'd be great to have, some kind of standardization for everything else as well.
So it's more data governance than
Responded directly.
like best practices, like when you click, always do this,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Bottom one.
Not used to Gmail yet.
Schema, sort of thing. The
Yeah.
data schema.
Yeah.
Thank you,
that's what I
Michael.
was- Is that what you guys were referring to, or are you talking about more overhead? So I was thinking you guys were
2013,
talking
oh my
about the
goodness.
schema.
Curtis did do this.
Yeah, I'd like to see this again. It's been a long time since I've had my eyes on it.
Goodness gracious, this is a long time ago.
Metadata.
Oh, yeah.
This is packed. How many pages is this?
Yeah, sure.
It's not really that many.
That was a big thing about that was the whole, everybody should be doing the same metadata or something.
Yeah, and now we're on to a whole different metadata standard. I said,
Not that many pages. We're at 32 right now.
It said only like 3 initially.
Pretty close.
It's loading still.
It's loading.
Yeah. yeah, it's
This is-
crazy. I mean,
That's good stuff. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that honestly us at the state library we already do. But I know it's something that I didn't do at the city of Great Falls.
Oh, yeah. There's
2009.
personally, I think this is outside the scope of what a committee member needs to be doing. I
Yeah.
mean, this is like.
I mean, we can
somebody
be
needs to get
collaborating.
paid to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be curious though, is that the council's approach on this? Are they going to be developing this best practices with like incorporating other local and state governments input, but having a contractor like write it up? Like who's gonna do the work?
We just went through this interview process with.
The strategic planning, yeah.
strategic
Which
planning.
section did you wanna go to?
I just want to scroll through it.
Oh,
I'm wondering if that's all together. You know, they take that information from those meetings and then they pull that strategic vision for the state together with some
Best practices are included.
data governance type stuff.
yeah, Harn. Oh, goodness. This is good to have though, but it's probably something that we would put NAD 83 2011 on here and then we're gonna have to just revise. I don't know if this is something maybe looking more towards the 2022 datum.
Right.
Because it's just like, well, the 2011 datum is almost going to be outdated here shortly.
Yeah.
We got Great Falls over here. Using state plane international. No, you guys are using US feet, right?
Of course.
They're not even going to be offering that datum in the
Right.
2022. That's why I was telling you, you better be
Sweat.
approaching that that
You know,
conversation with the department.
Just as an example, just simple things like this, right? Like an organization should make available, data available in the oldest, geodatabase version, and then an open source, and then symbology if you have it, include it, for folks to consume. So it's just like, and again, it's a best practice. So I think everything was laid out there. If you're gonna do this, try to,
That brings up a point there, the oldest GIS that everybody can have. I mean, not everybody is on the same level as everybody else kind of thing, stuff.
It will always be something archived.
Yeah, look at that.
Can read.
Yeah.
Here's something like this.
Shape files.
2012. I can't believe it's been that long.
Shape files.
But Chris worked on a lot of this. Yeah. Yeah. So obviously there's a reason it's been removed from the mega site. But it's interesting that MLAC is interested in creating something like this.
They were also talking with some other organization about maybe you guys, some survey or the new,
It was like geo something.
Oh, the National Geodetic Survey,
Yeah.
NGS, yeah. Probably with Brian Shaw.
yeah, and I think that's kind of linked. The conversation was linked, these two.
So 2013, this was adopted by the board of directors.
I mean, would this be something that we would?
No, I don't think so. I think it would be
give
some.
give it to MLAC to start their process of what they want to do and say, hey, this is what we were kind of doing at the time.
I think we would probably just be involved. Is that kind of what I mean? I wasn't.
She asked, she said, would MAGIP like to be involved? And I was like, yeah.
I think makeup should be involved, but yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think.
This is pretty obsolete.
Well, it's obsolete, but I think replicating this from one of our committees is probably a little bold.
But I don't, I mean, think about it.
But necessary.
Any of you are in need a question of how to do something. Are you gonna go,
To a document, yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe make a document.
But it's something that,
Google.
yeah, but it's something that, well, especially within our grant program, it's something that we often point to. This is, this is adopted standards that data needs to, or is recommended should be within.
Yeah, right.
So, and I think even if you were to look up and down all of our local governments, they're probably, widely diverse datums
Sure.
and
Right,
versions of
right.
datums and
So that's the
versions
point.
of software. And oh yeah, I know that's the point, but like maybe a document like this, a refreshed document like this would give everybody a perspective, especially if we were going to be looking at more of a 2022 datum lens. So this would be a document that probably wouldn't be created for several years, but we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if you throw 93 2011 on here, it's going to be outdated in 2 years automatically.
So to me, there's two different things. There's like standards, in terms of what datums and projections and units and things like that, and accuracies we're willing to accept.
Mhm.
Those are standards.
Yep.
You gotta meet those if you want your data to go in certain places, or if you want to use it for certain things.
9.3, huh?
But then there's practices, right? Of saying, oh, if possible, you should provide these things, right? And those are two different things. And as an organization, we can point to all of the standards that are in place in different organizations. And then we could, as an organization, say, after having surveyed all of this, we think these are some nice things to do.
Yeah.
Right? If we feel that's valuable.
Sounds like the way you go, you're saying you're like, this is not up to the standards. Like we need to change.
Yeah. Or what I'm saying is BLM has these standards. You doing a project for them, refer to that. Forest Service has these standards. The state has these standards. The county has these standards. And rather than writing them, we just point to the official source of them.
Yeah. So I guess from MLIAC's approach, are they maybe looking at it more as a, state government lens, or are they looking at more of a GIS professional lens of Montana? I think those are two completely different conversations if you're talking about one or the other.
Right.
I don't even know if we could even come up, maybe this attempt tried to come up with a GIS professional standards, just because I think you're going to have different ones for BLM, you have different ones for US Forest Service, state government, obviously you have your local government standards.
Right. And so I don't think this is even an MLIAC thing.
No, I don't think
Right?
so either.
Yeah.
That's not, it's a GIS coordinator thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like something we could potentially collaborate on with the state if that's their approach. This is standards that the state is going to use, and this is going to be the document that the state points to whenever data is submitted to them, through the grant program or whatever. So I think that's probably their approach. But I think it would be appropriate for us to have those conversations with Aaron and the council and what their plans are going forward with creating this document. Yeah, the intentions. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I mean, we could.
I think it came from their that project they're doing, the strategic plan
Yeah.
with whatever that consultant's name is.
Yeah.
That's what this is stemming from.
Yeah.
has the council put out any information about that, or if you guys heard more on that?
They had the 2 meetings, didn't they? And that's about all I heard.
Okay.
I went to one meeting. It was good.
Yeah, I think through one of our staff meetings, I think the end goal is by the end of the year have some sort of document, or a draft of a document to. So I know we hired a company to do it, and I think there's a lot to it. And if this best practice is part of it, I think that's great. But
This sort of thing, it's already been done. I mean,
I just
it's
wish
not
that
been it's been done by so many organizations like NINA, and I mean, a lot of this groundwork is.
Well, that's more
Employees national-
standards for next gen
Certain-
911. Yeah, we're talking more
So in the
about
scope of the state and local government.
maybe just the state.
How would-
I think it's more just the state of Montana GIS best practices and standards of data that's going to be submitted to them.
Well,
That's my
your guess,
interpretation.
yeah, your guess.
That's my interpretation. of it.
Right.
That's why I think we probably should be more involved in, okay, what is the intentions of this document?
Right.
And Eric's, I can collaborate with Eric a little bit on this and too, and see
Yeah.
what he's found out. And
And maybe we're late to the
Yeah.
party in this. I have no idea. I know this has come up in a lot of our meetings and.
And,
Okay.
and like you say, I mean, there is no document that's going to be stable for all the time.
but I think maybe it does have to do with the grant, the grants. I mean, the format has to be the same when everyone's submitting something. It has to be in this.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, so I spoke with Aaron and some of these people about this stuff, and it was kind of a conversation about, it's a two-way thing, right? Because the state produces data that other entities use, but then, other entities create data that the state may use. And so, yeah, there has to be some indication of what your standards are of accuracy and things of that nature, privacy. So, yeah, it was kind of a back and forth, and I think part of it is, right, so that the state can maintain a level of integrity going forward. I know that, do you guys know about the national NGDA, National Geographic Data Assets? So it's like it's a federal, it's like a data.gov, heard of that? Well, different agencies submit critical, just like the MSDI, there's the NSDI, National Spatial Data.
Oh, yeah. I have heard of that. Yeah.
Critical data layers that different entities submit. And that subset, the critical stuff is housed in what they call the National Geospatial Data Assets. And there have to be distribution links in the metadata so that they can get picked up and served through that platform.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of, that's the ISO metadata standards. There's a lot of time about that. To make that work.
So it's essentially maybe they get plugged in under a national scale and be with their standards as well.
Right. Like one of those layers is the protected area database of the United States. So all these different government entities have management responsibility for different lands, and they all submit that. That all gets combined into this one data set. Right? So they'll have to be able to talk to each other.
Okay. I guess just to wrap things up, are you guys good with, because I think I got a call down there at 5 o'clock if we're gonna do this, because I think I talked with most of you. Are you guys okay with just doing pizza up here?
Yeah.
Pizza up here, yeah.
Yeah, I did get a menu. If you guys want to pass this around, pizza menu or whatever.
Yeah, I don't need it.
Is there cheese on it?
Yeah,
That's all I
Is it
need.
pizza?
I wasn't sure if you guys were picky on any of that kind of stuff or. Yeah, I don't think I was getting that one.
I only ate chanterelle mushrooms.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, is there a place for
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm on the state website. There's materials. I think there's-
Yeah, but where's the archives though? That's usually just for the active meetings.
I couldn't tell you.
I wish you guys recorded your meetings
I found the
too.
agenda for all the meetings, but I can't find it.
Yeah.
The minutes.
Are you
Huh.
too picky into any of that? No one allergic to anything?
As long as it's not Supreme, I'm good.
Oh, now we're getting picky.
Yeah, I'm getting picky there.
I like.
Huh?
see that menu.
You want to be the pizza guy, or you pick pizzas for us?
What do you think about getting one, 2 or 3?
Yeah.
2, 1.
I'm taking off, so.
Okay. You're not sticking around for any lawn games?
I know it. I mean, my daughter's home and I was gone half the month already, so.
Okay, no worries, no worries.
My husband had to go to work, left on a train, so I.
But I thought you couldn't live without beer.
Well, I have beer when I get home.
I know, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
She's like, are you not gonna be home again? So I told her. I'd come home.
No worries, no worries.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
I'll come, I'll be back, I'll come back in the morning.
yeah,
It's such an easy drive.
yeah, yeah, lucky.
For some.
For some, for me, it's an easy drive.
Are you gonna be up for the group activity?
What is it, M&S again?
No, it's something more fun.
You can have it.
It's a surprise.
Yeah,
Not
you
gonna
can have
tell.
M&Ms.
Well, I'll leave my house at 7, which will put me here about 8. Although I would have been here, I left my house at 9 this morning because I knew I would be here about 10. But I could forget on Highway 200, you can get behind a truck pulling a camper going like 45, and there's not a lot of opportunity around him.
Okay.
So I got stuck behind him till almost to Clearwater.
Wow.
I'll leave my house at 7. If I get here in time for the games.
Okay.
If not, we'll just wait, carry on. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just wait another 5 minutes.
You'll get
Thank you. That was, you made some really good comments.
Yeah, thanks,
Especially
Michelle.
about the community, keep harnessing our communication
Well,
voice.
it's interesting because 2 of the associations I work for have a paid, like, that's like almost a full-time communications person. That's the International
Yeah.
Association, and they have a pretty big global reach. And then the other one has a communications person also, and they have a paid lobbyist.
Could we post something like that unpaid, like make it like an official job, unpaid?
Yeah, UM has a lot of college students who want to send publication.
I mean, that's some of
Well,
the best work we've had is.
Yeah, I think it'd be, I mean, like we were kind of talking, I think it would be the point position, but I think we would absolutely we would be advertising interest, and then
Yeah.
if we found the right person, we would then appoint that position as a board. I think.
Some must do. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys have a
The
lot of.
journalism school.
Board
You
plan
have a lot of
action item right
information to
there.
What's that?
Did you guys have a lot of good information to share?
Yeah, well, I think it's what message are we trying to send out there? Is
Yeah.
something that we would have to coordinate.
It does kind of surround the whole idea of dissemination, and how this is put together and how people get to hear about these great ideas.
Right?
They kind of go nowhere if nobody hears.
Right, that's sort of information is our middle name, right?
You got plenty of that.
And it ain't shit if it's locked up somewhere.
Nothing about communication. Not a word.
It's the one piece that you guys are missing as an association, I think.
Yeah, with a lot of passion and desire
Yeah.
to do things, but yeah.
And you do a lot community oriented stuff, so I think that's important.
Yeah,
Feels kind of like a
communication.
dumb.
The communication person
Yeah,
can
it was.
also convey the information maybe more interestingly, like, not like clickbaity, but I mean, to where people might open up that
Yeah, I mean,
email more.
If it's a real communications person, I meant like somebody who does that, right? They
Yeah.
just know how
They know
to,
the human engineering.
they know how to
aspect.
do that, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
To be kind of firm, that would do it pro bono. Have no money to do that.
We'll pay you in M&Ms.
Okay, that's funny. Although I've seen a couple nonprofits in Missoula looking for like a communications / media coordinator or whatever, and they just can't write anybody. I mean, you're better off, I mean, they're looking for like to employ people, but there's so many freelancers out there though. Like somebody could honestly do it from anywhere.
Right.
It could be somebody in Michigan,
Go to fiverr.com.
you know,
What
I
they're doing
mean,
is one-off. thing.
Well, even the
Is that what
logo,
that's called?
even the logo
Fiverr.
that we're using
Fiverr,
right
yes,
now, that was in part designed by Jennifer Haas, who's a student who helped me on the
This one right here.
the one where there's like a triangle in it or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So she was a student, she helped us on that committee, and she had a flair for graphic design and stuff.
Wasn't
Added your resume now.
Yeah,
right?
Jenny, what's her name?
Haas.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
great.
All right, you guys have fun with your lawn games.
Yeah.
What are your lawn games?
Cornhole.
Cornhole. More cornhole.
That's all the
You
rage
guys are
these
lucky
days.
I'm leaving because
Frisbee.
I'm really good at cornhole.
Oh.
Oh, so you're talking about,
Oh, look at that. See, look at
you're
that.
talking about this logo, Rob, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hey, do you guys know that the biggest larch tree in Montana is not very far from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know.
$300.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
it's just off the,
She gave us a lot of.
I couldn't identify
Yeah.
which tree it was.
oh no?
Okay, I'll see you guys in the morning.
See ya. Safe travels.
I'll have to teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure out what